Chapter 381, Konoha Genin Uzumaki Naruto, Fake ID. Early one morning, Mu Yue walked into the Hokage building's mission hall, looking for work. Obito's life mission progress sat at 19.2%, just 0.8% from 20% and another reward. If he took the right mission, he could finish it in one go. If not, staying in Konoha to train might be better. He left Obito and the others behind and went alone to avoid wasting their time. B-rank mission, investigate Lulan Minister and Lushan. Mu Yue's eyes narrowed at the word Lulan. He read the mission carefully. Lulan was special in the ninja world because hidden dragon veins beneath it contained power that could cross space and time. But Mu Yue remembered that Minato had already been proficient with the Rasengan when he went to those dragon veins. So this Lulan mission didn't match Minato's timeline. Mu Yue recalled the details and realized this mission wasn't the same one Minato had taken. Minato had been assigned to protect Queen Sarah, while this mission was issued by Sarah's mother. Sarah wasn't even queen yet. "I'll take it," Mu Yue told the registration ninja after a moment's thought. Going now might mean missing Naruto, but the mission fit Obito's life mission progress perfectly. If Obito did well, he'd become a small country's hero, like in Snow Country. Even setting aside life mission rewards, Mu Yue wanted to see the dragon veins in Lulan. A power that could traverse space and time was worth studying. After accepting the mission, Mu Yue returned to the south border forest to brief his team. "It's only B rank, Mu Yue-sensei. Why not take an A rank?" Obito scratched his head. He'd done many A-rank battlefield missions and felt a B rank was less challenging. Don't you like taking pictures of different scenery?" Mu Yue asked with a gentle smile. "Lulan is an ancient place with unique architecture you can't find anywhere else." "Is that so? Then this mission is perfect." Obito's eyes lit up. "You change your mind fast," Kakashi muttered at the shift in Obito's attitude. "So what? I just didn't appreciate Mu Yue-sensei's effort at first," Obito replied. "I think it's mostly that you don't study Ninja World geography seriously," Kakashi said flatly. "I bet you don't even know 10 countries. "How could that be? Don't underestimate me." Obito was indignant. He rattled off the 5 great nations and then more. Snow Country, Grass Country, Land of Rivers, Land of Hot Water. Hot! Lulan! "That's still only 10, Kakashi teased. Obito's face flushed as he searched his memory. "And the Land of Rice Fields. 11. Ha! Now what?" Kakashi clapped slowly. 11 is impressive. That includes the 5 great nations. Obito reddened at being mocked even while praised. Kakashi then rattled off a list of small countries. Land of Rain, Land of the Moon, Land of Waves, Land of Waterfalls, Bird Country, Bear Country. Enough to make Obito goggle. "Don't bully him, it's his weak spot," Rin Nohara said with a helpless smile, which only stung Obito more. "So you think I'm an idiot?" he sulked, drawing circles on the ground. He secretly wished someone would teach Kakashi a lesson for being such a bully. "All right, prepare to depart," Mu Yue said, stepping forward. Since it was only a B-rank mission, he didn't bring Shisui and the others, leaving a shadow clone to instruct them instead. Once everything was ready, Mu Yue, Obito, Kakashi, and Rin set out for Lulan. They traveled west, and the landscape shifted from forest to grassland to parched plains, and finally to endless desert. Obito couldn't help pulling out his camera to take pictures of the golden dunes. His first desert experience had been cut short by combat. This time he could at least take a few shots. "A few days out here, and you'll start missing Konoha," Mu Yue warned, activating his Byakugan to scan the horizon. The desert was grand, but its sameness would lose novelty quickly, and its living conditions were harsh. "You overestimate him. I bet he'll be begging for Konoha by nightfall," Kakashi said dryly. Obito shot him a J-lair. He was determined not to complain in front of Kakashi, no matter how tough it got. After they reached the desert edge, Mu Yue indulged Obito's curiosity for a while, then quickened the pace toward Lulan. When they came in view of the city, Kakashi frowned. "Why are there so many tall buildings?" he asked. Lulan in the books hadn't looked like this. The super tall buildings with Lulan-style architecture were either new or the records were out of date. "See? You didn't even know what Lulan looked like," Obito crowed, delighted. Kakashi just scanned the scene. Lulan still had the older structures the records mentioned, but the tall new buildings were clearly recent additions. "Let's meet our client," Mu Yue said, taking out 3 kunai and tossing them to his students. Kakashi looked surprised. They hadn't fought since leaving Konoha, so there was no reason to worry about using up tools. The only explanation was that Mu Yue planned to teleport to them if needed. Mu Yue-sensei, can you use Flying Thunder God? Kakashi asked. Yes. Keep the kunai with you, and I can move to your side instantly, Mu Yue replied. Obito, the loud one, piped up. Do you have a long-lost twin brother? You look so much like Minato. Minato and Mu Yue did resemble each other, could both use Flying Thunder God, and both were gentle. It was hard not to suspect a family tie. Mu Yue tapped Obito on the forehead. No, Minato taught me Flying Thunder God. I just learned it from him, Mu Yue said. If not for Minato's instruction, it would have taken him years of grinding to grasp it. I want to learn it too. Obito laughed, rubbing the spot. He hated fighting Minato and wanted to wield that unfair speed himself. I'll teach you when you're ready, Mu Yue answered. Flying Thunder God consumed tremendous chakra. Obito wasn't ready yet. It's not refusal, it's just a question of capability. Yay! Obito cheered and turned to Kakashi challengingly. If he learned that technique, he wouldn't be so easily beaten. You can all learn it, but it has special requirements, Mu Yue added. He hoped his students would learn it. It was valuable for combat and survival, but it wasn't guaranteed. They went to meet the Queen of Lulan. She was young, graceful, and carried herself with quiet dignity. She didn't look like the mother of a child over 10. When both sides confirmed identities, Mu Yue asked, The mission is to investigate on Lushan. Any specifics? Please investigate his past and any clandestine activities, the Queen said. He's a minister now, but I suspect his past is a disguise, and he came with impure motives. Kakashi was puzzled. He's a minister, and you don't even know his background? The Queen explained, helpless, that An Lushan had told a story of past deeds and rose to power through great contributions. He'd brought such development to Lulan that the city had grown. She suspected deception, but couldn't simply arrest or expose him. Too many people supported him. If they acted prematurely without evidence, the populace and officials would turn against the crown. Obito watched the Queen and felt sympathy. In other places, rulers might be brash, but in a small, remote desert country like Lulan, barely the size of a town and often warring with neighbors, caution was survival. Someone who brought prosperity would inevitably gain supporters, but the Queen's prudence might have saved her life. And Lushan was a powerful ninja. Could he be someone like Fukadoto, trying to take over Lulan? Obito guessed. It's hard to say before an investigation, Kakashi said. Even the Queen doesn't know for sure. Mu Yue found a modest inn. We'll split up, he decided. I'll take one team and you 3 take the other. Meet back here tonight. Mu Yue planned to go to the Dragon Veins first. With his Byakugan, he could sense the power under Lulan. To be safe, he left a shadow clone following Kakashi's group as backup. He himself could appear at any of their kunai markers should they need help. They set off to observe the city. At the Queen's request, they hid their headbands and chuunin vests and blended in as locals. Kakashi Rin, I think I've spotted someone suspicious, Obito said, pointing at a blonde-haired figure who was wandering and looking a little lost. I noticed him first, Kakashi replied, frowning as he glimpsed a headband under the man's collar. It looks suspicious. He's wearing only a headband, no vest. He might be a genin alone in Lulan, Rin agreed. Be careful, Kakashi murmured. Get ready. Obito and Kakashi moved in to question him. Are you a Konoha ninja? Obito asked. Isn't that obvious? The blonde answered, pointing to his headband. I came here to capture 100 feet. Kakashi's tone grew serious. Show us your ninja ID, wartime protocols. Naruto blinked. What war? But sure, I have it. He handed over an ID willingly. Something about the white-haired masked youngster in front of Kakashi felt familiar. Uzumaki Naruto, Genin, Ninja ID 012607. Kakashi read the card and his eyelids twitched. The card looked exactly like a Konoha ID, but the details were absurd. The numbers suggested over 12,000 graduates. Obito, who'd been among the most recent graduates, had a number of Thalanate 86. New graduates didn't produce thousands more IDs in a single year. From Naruto's appearance, he didn't look like a brand new graduate either. The Uzumaki surname was also suspicious. Konoha had only one known Uzumaki resident, Kushina. Kakashi didn't return the card. He gathered chakra silently, preparing for a possible fight. Mu Yue's shadow clone trailing the group perked up. This encounter was getting interesting. "Do you know where you are? Have you seen 100 Feet?" Naruto asked cheerfully, happy to meet someone from his village. "This is Lulan," Kakashi said flatly. "You don't even know where Lulan is?" "Lulan? I thought it was ruins," Naruto said, looking around at the intact city with confusion. Naruto talked loud enough that passers-by turned to look. Kakashi pulled him aside into a secluded lane to avoid drawing attention. "By the way, your surname isn't Hatake, is it?" Naruto asked, tilting his head. He thought the boy in front of him might be Kakashi Hatake's secret son. Kakashi, baffled, nodded. Naruto brightened. "Kakashi-sensei really had such a big kid and didn't tell me." Kakashi stared. "I am my own child," he said flatly. Obito burst out laughing. Naruto's antics cracked up Rin too. Kakashi, however, was in no mood for games. The ID was full of holes. "I'm going to need that ID back," Kakashi said. "Your card is a forgery. If you won't tell the truth, we'll use the ninja way." Kakashi drew a kunai. Naruto looked startled. He didn't understand why they were upset, until Obito reacted. Before Kakashi could move further, Obito leapt in. "Fire release, great fireball technique," he roared, shaping chakra in his throat and blowing a massive fireball at Naruto. Naruto dodged easily. "If you attack, even if you're related to Kakashi-sensei, I'll make you cry," he said, amused. Kakashi noted Naruto's speed with concern and concentrated his breathing technique, enhancing his perception. He drew his white fang short sword and slashed, then Naruto countered. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. Naruto poured large quantities of chakra into replication and produced over 80 solid shadow clones in an instant. White smoke popped, and Kakashi and Obito suddenly found themselves surrounded. At first, Kakashi suspected trickery, but the clones were real and solid, each carrying chakra. Such chakra! Kakashi's expression darkened. Naruto's chakra reserves were enormous. He steeled himself and fought through, engaging the clones. Obito was stunned. He'd never seen someone rely on clones in such a brute force way. Rin watched with mouth slightly open. This stranger was stronger than any random ninja they'd expected to meet. Obito shifted into flame breathing, concentrating his breath and converting it to fire release chakra. "Fire style, Orochi Nagi," he bellowed. Waves of fire erupted and incinerated any clones. Kakashi flashed with lightning release, employing flash double strike to clear another group. Both of them were impressive and caught Naruto's attention. "Not bad," Naruto grinned and created hundreds more clones. Then his main body charged in. Kakashi's forehead broke into a sweat. Naruto's clone output was relentless. The three of them might be overwhelmed. He needed to call Mu Yue's attention. They still had Mu Yue's Flying Thunder God kunai. If Mu Yue knew they were in trouble, he could teleport in. Kakashi pushed into the transparent world. Everything seemed to clear, and he moved with greater perception and speed. Despite that, Naruto's volume and clone pressure got Kakashi hit. Rin tried to help with water release, but Naruto's Rasengan dispersed her attack. Obito stopped worrying about chakra conservation and went all out. Fire release. Fire Dragon Flame Bullet, he unleashed, sending torrents of orange-red, high-temperature flame in a broad sweep, forming a searing sea of fire that burned dozens of Naruto's clones. He then directed the flames to attack from 3 directions. Kakashi breathed easier. Obito's fire would draw attention, but the fire was suddenly smothered. Water release, water wave hand. A massive tidal wave slammed toward them, dousing Obito's flames instantly. Kakashi tensed. They weren't facing a lone rogue ninja. Backup had arrived. A black-clad ninja in a Konoha chuunin vest and headband strode forward toward them. The sight made Kakashi's skin prickle. They might have stumbled into something much bigger, and it seemed to involve Konoha identifiers spreading far beyond Konoha itself. No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter. Obito's unease flared into alarm. Naruto had just insisted Mu Yue was the 4th Hokage, while Yamato had said they were on a mission ordered by the 5th Hokage. The two statements didn't add up. "So, what happened to the 4th Hokage when you arrived?" Obito asked Yamato and Naruto, clinging to a sliver of hope. Historically, a new Hokage only appeared after the previous one had died, not because each wanted the post until the end, but because accidents and coups had removed predecessors. The first died young, the second fell in a cloud coup. Obito allowed himself to imagine Mu Yue stepping down voluntarily and letting a successor take the title, which might explain the rapid appearance of a fifth Hokage. He hoped, desperately hoped, Mu Yue had simply left the office. Kakashi opened his mouth, closed it, then kept quiet. He was too perceptive not to notice the contradiction. The truth was a blow he couldn't say aloud. Asking would only deepen the other's grief. He wished it were all a nightmare. How could someone like Mu Yue, master of multiple breathing techniques and chakra modes, armed with armament haki that bolstered offense and defense, competent in 7 chakra nature transformations, and even possessing a bloodline limit ice release, be dead? His repertoire of advanced ninjutsu and taijutsu was vast. Yet Kakashi knew, with the cold certainty of experience, that being human meant being mortal. No amount of mastery changed that. Yamato was torn. If he spoke about the future, he might change it, perhaps for the better, perhaps for catastrophe. What if his words prevented the fourth Hokage's death, but some unforeseen consequence destroyed Konoha? He couldn't gamble with history. Still, silence was also an answer, and the weight of it showed on his face. Obito couldn't bear the uncertainty. Why aren't you speaking? Don't Konoha ninja know about the Hokage's affairs? His voice trembled. Disbelief and anger rolled through him. The surge of emotion forced his Sharingan to flare. 2 tomoe blurred into 3, the pattern spinning as his eye readied itself. At the last moment, the twirling faltered and settled back into a calm 3 tomoe Sharingan. Obito, don't ask anymore. Mu Yue laid a hand on Obito's shoulder and smiled gently. Future shinobi have their own burdens. Their future is theirs to carry. Our future still needs to be created by ourselves. Mu Yue had been watching Yamato and Naruto closely. From their behavior and the details they let slip, he guessed these two were not from his world's future, but from the original Hokage world's future. To Yamato, Hayate Mugetsu should not have been an unknown name, especially to a root ninja trained under Hiruzen and Danzo, someone recognized for Ambu and root-level training. Even if Mu Yue could not defeat Uchiha Madara or Black Zetsu, and even if he died, Yamato ought to have reacted to the name. He should have known. Obito's face remained pained and bewildered. He couldn't accept, would not accept, the future Yamato and Naruto had hinted at. Mu Yue's quiet words were cooling embers under Obito's heated grief, but they were no balm for the fear of losing his teacher. Kakashi's self-control slipped. If people from the future revealed anything, history could shift. For them, consequences were unknown. The safest course was to ask little. But tonight he would find Naruto and Yamato privately. He would ask about Mu Yue, about Obito, about Rin. If he was given a chance to change fate and did nothing, he would regret it forever. Rin Nohara, standing beside them, offered a gentle smile. He's right. Our future is something we decide. Her voice steadied her friends. The thought of death frightened her. Sometimes she imagined consciousness simply snuffed out, but fear would not help now. They were alive. They needed to comfort one another. Yamato looked at Mu Yue with respectful eyes. Placed in Mu Yue's position, faced with people from the future who were evasive, he knew he would be unsettled. But this fourth Hokage, this Mu Yue, seemed unfazed by talk of his own mortality and able to reassure his disciples. He fit everything Yamato had pictured in a Hokage, composed, capable, and kind. Minato-sama? Yamato said aloud, and everyone turned to him, puzzled. Kakashi frowned. Hadn't he already introduced the man as Mu Yue? Yamato's formality, calling him Sama, wasn't out of line given the other's strength, but something else was wrong. Big brother idiot, are your eyes or your ears broken? You're calling our Mu Yue-sensei Minato-sensei? Obito snapped, the earlier rawness in him making his words sharp. Kakashi and Obito's reaction pierced Yamato. He turned to Naruto, alarmed. Do I really look idiotic? Naruto, blunt as always, answered without filter. So Captain Yamato, you never noticed? His remark hit Yamato's pride hard. Kakashi tried to make sense of it. Why are you calling Mu Yue-sensei Minato-sama? He asked seriously. The pieces were sliding into place. Perhaps they had all misread something. Yamato staggered through his explanation. The blond man looked like the fourth Hokage in the stone carving. His use of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu was convincing. He had simply concluded, logically, that this must be Minato. Obito snorted. Minato and Mu Yue look similar, but they're not the same person. He treated them as close, not identical. Kakashi's mind raced. Maybe Mu Yue wasn't the future fourth Hokage at all. Maybe Yamato and Naruto had mistaken him for Minato Namikaze because of resemblance and technique. So the fourth Hokage's name is Minato Namikaze? Kakashi asked, eyes sharp. Yamato nodded without thinking. When Kakashi registered it, his expression tightened. If Mu Yue wasn't the Hokage, then perhaps the actual Minato would be the one in danger. Wait, fourth Hokage is Minato-sensei? Obito faltered, emotions muddled. If Minato died, he would grieve as well. Yamato's certainty wavered as he realized everyone else was reacting as if he'd erred. The blond man in front of him matched the fourth Hokage's likeness and used Flying Thunder God. How could he not be the same person? Yet he couldn't recall the name Hayate Mugetsu from any records. The confusion left Naruto lost. What do you mean? Isn't this big brother the fourth Hokage? He asked. Obito answered, patient but firm. We don't have a fourth Hokage right now. If your fourth Hokage is Minato-sensei, then you've got the wrong person. This is Mu Yue-sensei. Mu Yue stepped forward, smiling. You must have mistaken me for someone else. My name is Hayate Mugetsu. Minato is a very good friend of mine. That clarified it. Yamato was stunned. The man looked like Minato and moved like Minato, but wasn't Minato. It didn't make sense, and yet Mu Yue's calm, friendly manner left no doubt. Mu Yue tilted his head. By the way, in your world, how is Feitian Shinji's darkness breathing technique coming along? He used the Anbu codename Xiang, an inquiry that told Yamato much about Mu Yue's background and awareness. Senior Xiang? I'm not too sure, Yamato replied after a moment. He knew Xiang was skilled in lightning release sealing technique, not darkness breathing. Mu Yue's question reinforced his suspicion that Yamato and Naruto were from the original Naruto timeline. Naruto, remembering the mission, blurted out, Captain Yamato, do you know where 100 Feet is? Mu Yue shook his head. I don't know the ninja you mean. The situation diverged too much from the anime script for Mu Yue to unveil everything. He wouldn't give away plot details carelessly. Kakashi stepped forward and confessed, voice low. I said some things earlier to buy time. We came to Lulan because of an investigation the Queen requested. We don't know precisely who you're looking for. Naruto's concern deepened. What do we do now? We need to find that guy to get back. We should start looking in Lulan, Yamato said. We all time traveled here, so he should be somewhere in this country. Mu Yue offered to help. If you don't mind, my squad can assist with the search, provided it doesn't interfere with our mission. Mu Yue, who had D enough to recognize overlapping threads, knew their missions essentially aligned. The 100 Feet Naruto sought was An Lushan, the current Lulan minister. If his ambition and actions were investigated, the Queen would likely ask for him to be eliminated. Mu Yue's team needed to conduct an investigation first. Their job was the natural precursor to any assassination order. That would be great, Yamato said, grateful. Looking at Mu Yue, capable, helpful, he felt a private regret. If Mu Yue was indeed fated to die in the approaching war, it was a tragic waste. The fact Yamato couldn't recall a ninja like Mu Yue suggested one conclusion. Mu Yue must have died very early, perhaps in the Third Shinobi World War, before Minato rose to be fourth Hokage. Yamato resolved to ask Kakashi about Mu Yue later. Kakashi was Mu Yue's student and should know more. Thank you, big brother Mu Yue. Naruto grinned and thanked him sincerely. Mu Yue wasn't the fourth Hokage after all, but Naruto liked him instantly. Mu Yue gave them the location of the hotel where his squad was staying. The two groups split up. Mu Yue's team went to investigate An Lushan, while Naruto and Yamato scoured Lulan for the man called 100 Feet. Kakashi, Obito, and the others still had questions. Mu Yue and Minato resembled each other and both used Flying Thunder God. A mistake was understandable, but why did no one remember Hayate Mugetsu? What happened to Minato Namikaze? What fate awaited Obito, Rin, and Asuma? More questions crowded Obito's mind, but Naruto's and Yamato's urgency to solve their time jump crisis kept them moving. They would talk more back at the hotel that evening. Mu Yue, left alone for a time, reviewed the panels he'd seen and sighed inwardly. Naruto's stats were impressive. Name, Uzumaki Naruto Chakra, 220,000 surface reading. Potential, SS+, 6 paths reincarnation, plus 9-tailed, innate talent. Skills, wind release mastery, Rasengan, Rasen Shuriken. Mu Yue knew Naruto's visible chakra wasn't the whole picture. When unleashed, Naruto's reserves would far exceed the measured amount. and Nagato's strength in the original timeline came with its own peculiarities, Rinnegan transplant aside, so raw comparisons were tricky. Yamato's panel was informative as well. Name, Yamato Chakra, 110,000. Potential S, Hashirama cells plus innate talent. Skills, Wood Release, Mastery level 30-50,000. Earth Release Chakra, Nature Transformation, Mastery 805,000. Water Release Mastery, Wood Release, 4-Pillar House. Mu Yue thought Hashirama's cells were absurdly potent. Yamato's S potential was clearly inflated by them. His chakra was outstanding for that reason, though other proficiencies remained average. His Wood Release and Nature Transformations were at a mastery threshold, but not deeply specialized, useful gatekeeping skills, not prodigy-level mastery. Reading Naruto's profile made Mu Yue reflect that only someone on the level of the Sage of Six Paths, born with the Rinnegan, might truly reach 3S potential. Naruto already had more than one major buff, Asura's reincarnation, clan traits, and the Nine Tails, and yet he was SS+, not triple S. Still, S rank would be more than enough for Mu Yue to consider offering training. Double S would be ideal. The environment, however, wasn't always conducive to accepting low-potential disciples. After the split, Mu Yue returned to studying Lulan's dragon vein. His Byakugan pierced the earth, revealing a vast chakra reservoir under the ground, its nature different from ordinary shinobi chakra. He couldn't control it, but he could approach an abandoned underground base to get closer and open his transparent world to perceive it more clearly. If I need to, I can question Anlushan or ask the queen for help, Mu Yue thought. Anlushan possessed a secret method to absorb dragon vein power that had left him half human, half ghost in appearance. Regardless of its ethical questions, such research had value. The queen's control over the dragon vein could be crucial. When Mu Yue returned to the hotel that evening, Kakashi and the team were there. Obito rubbed his head, frustrated by their fruitless day. Maybe the queen is just playing it up. Why does everyone talk so highly of him? He said. Their investigation had turned up nothing but Anlushan's popularity, praise from the common folk, gifts distributed, a public image of a wise, generous minister. This was a stark contrast to what they'd seen in Snow Country. Even discounting Fuka Dodo's later betrayal, Obito had distrusted that other man's stern arrogance. But Anlushan presented himself as selflessly devoted to Lulan, and the people loved him for it. Our investigation's been too shallow, Kakashi said softly. Everything we're seeing could be a facade. At that moment, Mu Yue walked in, smiling, and Naruto and Yamato followed him into the room. The questions and tensions lingered between them like a low hum, some to be answered now, some to be answered in time. Big brother Naruto, have you found any clues about that 100 feet? Obito asked quietly. He had 1,000 questions, but this wasn't the time to ask them in front of everyone. It was better to talk privately. What they knew so far was odd. Naruto and Yamato recognized Kakashi and Metkai, but they had no idea who Mu Yue, Obito, or Rin Nohara were. Asuma might have recognized them, but he'd never answered to confirm. We checked a lot of places and questioned people, but we found nothing, Naruto said, worry shadowing his face. If 100 feet didn't cross over, then Sakura and Sai could be in danger. Yamato looked grave. Mu Yue, watching them, suggested, "This isn't a good place to talk. Let's go to a room." They moved to Mu Yue's quarters. Yamato and Kakashi sat, listening as Obito explained their fruitless search in Ruren. We were looking for that 100 feet while investigating on Lushan. No one here seems to have heard the name. We showed people a portrait, and no one recognized him. Rin poured water for the group and handed Yamato a cup. We found the same thing, Yamato said. I questioned residents near our crossing point. Aside from Naruto, there was no one who stood out that day. Yamato had used a transformation technique to investigate. It made sense Naruto would be noticed. Naruto would approach strangers and ask questions. But even when Yamato pretended to look for a relative and showed 100 Feet's portrait, he got nothing. If no one recognized the portrait, two possibilities remained. Either 100 Feet had been very lucky and slipped away without being seen, then used transformation to hide, or, more frighteningly, 100 Feet had not crossed time with them. Only Naruto and Yamato had. Damn it, Naruto muttered. He caused the anomaly, so why did only Yamato and I go through time? Obito offered a thought. Since 100 Feet will appear in the future, why don't we just wait here in Ruron until he appears and take him down then? Kakashi shook his head. That won't work. Naruto and the others came from the future, which means there's still a Naruto and a Yamato in the present timeline. If ours stay, there will be 2 of each. That could have unpredictable consequences for history. Obito blinked. The idea of 2 Obitos, competing with himself even in principle, was suddenly discomfiting. Yamato agreed. We can't stay here too long. It would be irresponsible to the ninja world and to history. He respected Kakashi's caution too. Although Obito's suggestion was tempting in its simplicity, it was reckless. Mu Yue was calm. Don't worry, 100 Feet must have crossed over, he said with certainty. Yamato eyed him. Mu Yue had already admitted he wasn't the 4th Hokage, but his demeanor suggested he knew far more than he let on. Mu Yue leaned back and explained carefully, drawing on deep ninjutsu knowledge and even slipping in references to Flying Thunder God techniques. The others listened, sensing the depth of what he said, even if every detail flew past them. So, Mu Yue concluded, 100 Feet likely traveled through time as you did. The reason we can't find him now might be that he came earlier, weeks, months, or even years ahead of you. That would make him even harder to find, Naruto fretted. This world is huge. Who knows where he could have gone? Mu Yue suggested another possibility. He may still be in Ruron. If he intends to feed on the dragon vein's power, why would he leave a place that supplies it and has no opposition? He pushed his glasses up and added, as for why no one recognizes him, perhaps he's already altering his appearance, fearing you might travel here. Tomorrow I'll try to speak with the queen and see if she knows anything, Mu Yue said. Naruto grinned and thumped Mu Yue on the shoulder. Big brother Mu Yue, thank you, you're incredible. Obito, ever the devotee, praised Mu Yue loudly. Mu Yue tapped Obito's head with 2 fingers in mock exasperation. Even I don't know if I'm omnipotent, he said, smiling. Yamato bowed slightly. Thanks for your help, Lord Mu Yue. I'm curious about you. You're powerful and kind. Why are you so unknown in later years? Did you die young in battle? A heaviness passed over Yamato at the thought. He suspected he was seeing someone history had forgotten too soon, and he felt useless to help. After the discussion wound down, the group began to break up. Mu Yue planned to research sealing techniques. Rin intended to wash up. Kakashi and Obito resumed their familiar bickering. Yamato and Naruto headed back to their quarters. About 4 hours later, Obito eased his door open and peeked out, checking the corridor. No one was around, so he padded quietly to Naruto and Yamato's room and tapped gently. Why are you being so sneaky? Naruto asked when Obito slipped in. Yamato looked uneasy. He guessed Obito's reason. Sneaking into the rooms of 2 people from the future could only mean one thing. He wanted to ask about the future. Ahem, nothing. I just have some questions, Obito admitted. Before you crossed over, did you know Lord Mu Yue? Naruto shook his head. No, today's my first time meeting him. He's unforgettable. If I'd met him before, I'd remember. Obito turned to Yamato. Yamato was older and might know more. He looked up and answered honestly. I don't know him either. Obito's face went slack. He found it impossible to accept that such an accomplished ninja as Mu Yue could be unknown. What about the vice principal of the Ninja Academy? He pressed. Yamato shook his head again. Naruto stared. Vice principal? The Ninja Academy only had the Hokage as its head, didn't it? Obito's mind raced. He tried to think of any place where Mu Yue would have left a trace. A school, a post, a famous battle, but came up empty. Mu Yue was low profile. After repelling a strong opponent like a Raikage candidate, he'd told his students not to spread the word. Maybe Mu Yue hadn't held titles in other offices either. Obito clutched his hands until his nails dug into his palms. He couldn't imagine a future without Mu Yue or Rin. He didn't accept it. You must know Minato-sensei, right? Obito asked finally, forcing his calm. Yamato nodded. Minato Namikaze is the 4th Hokage, a great hero of Konoha. A brief past mix-up had already leaked Minato's identity, so Yamato didn't feel like he was revealing more by confirming that. Obito pushed further. How did Minato-sensei die, and why? Yamato closed his eyes. He knew more than he could say, yet he didn't want to risk changing history. I don't know all the details, he said slowly. It's complicated. If history is altered, we don't know what the world will look like when we go back. If saving him makes things better, that's good. But if our interference causes disaster and Konoha is destroyed, we'd be the ones to blame. Yamato's knowledge of the fourth Hokage's death was limited by secrecy. He knew the Nine-Tails rampage and that the fourth Hokage sealed the beast at a cost, but he didn't dare speak recklessly. If a well-meaning action shattered the future, he couldn't forgive himself. Naruto was torn. For himself, he might have risked everything, but not for the lives of countless others. Obito felt the burden too. Even if he could not accept the future without Mu Yue and Rin, he understood the responsibility before them. A knock sounded on the door. Obito darted to the wardrobe and slipped inside, pressing himself flat and listening. He had asked Naruto and Yamato not to mention his visit. He didn't want Mu Yue to worry. "It's Kakashi," Naruto said. "Why are you being so cautious?" Obito held his breath. Kakashi's steps came into the room. The young, bright-eyed Kakashi sat down and immediately started asking questions about Mu Yue, Rin, Obito. Naruto and Yamato answered honestly. They didn't know any of them. Kakashi paused, then asked about himself instead. "One of you will be my future student and one my junior," he said. "Tell me what kind of person I become." Naruto launched into it with a grin. "Kakashi-sensei, in the future you're always late. Yo, you have the lamest excuses, helping a lost old lady, getting distracted by a black cat." Kakashi blinked. Yamato cut in to defend himself. "It's not that I'm particularly diligent, it's that Kakashi-senpai has a way of making me do everything." Hidden in the wardrobe, Obito sneered inwardly, but Yamato softened, then praised Kakashi's one undeniable trait. No matter how chaotic things got, missions got done under his lead. Kakashi, listening, grew serious. "From what I've heard, many important people around me died," he said, his hand on the white-fanged short sword strapped to his back. "If I can find out who dies and why, maybe I can prevent it. If they are destined to die, what's the point of my living alone?" He had every right to plead. Time travel had thrown those he cared about into mortal danger. If this was his only chance, he would do what he could. Yamato felt the weight of the choice. If he told Kakashi everything, the future might change unpredictably. If he stayed silent, Kakashi might die. But history had already been disturbed by their arrival. If events were changing anyway, perhaps truth and preparation were better than deliberate ignorance. Yamato chose to trust Kakashi. The fourth Hokage died young, the shortest reign. He died because... Yamato began, but another knock cut him off. "Don't tell anyone I was here. Let me carry this alone," Kakashi whispered, hurried toward the wardrobe, and slipped inside before anyone could respond. Naruto started to speak, but the cupboard door closed. Silence filled the room. Then Kakashi and Obito found themselves face to face in the cramped darkness, neither able to keep the shock off their faces. They shared a frozen, awkward laugh. Before anyone could recover, another voice came at the door. "Rin, is that you?" Naruto called. Rin Nohara stood at the doorway with a gentle smile. She had come to ask questions too. All three, Kakashi, Obito, and Rin, had thought the same thing. Yamato pinched his forehead. It would have been easier if they had come together. Rin's questions mirrored Kakashi's. Naruto and Yamato answered with surprising fluency. Rin's brow creased. She suspected they were hiding something with such ready replies. Yamato was at a loss. They had simply said the truth. There was another knock, louder this time. "Yamato, Naruto, are you awake?" "It's Mu Yue," came the voice. Rin's face brightened, and without hesitation, she dove for the wardrobe. Obito, Kakashi, and Rin found themselves jammed together in the tiny space, awkward, embarrassed, and fighting not to laugh. When the wardrobe opened, Obito offered a sheepish smile. Kakashi's expression was strained but amused. Rin slipped in and shut the door. Mu Yue entered with his characteristic calm. "I'm not here about the future," he said with a slight smile. He remembered the original timeline clearly and had come to apologize for the earlier misunderstanding. "My disciples and I feel badly. If there's anything you want, training, information, an introduction to someone in this era, I will help as much as I can." Naruto's eyes lit up. "Big brother Mu Yue, do you know Jiraiya?" "Jiraiya is one of Konoha's legendary sannin. I want to meet him." Mu Yue nodded. "Lord Jiraiya is indeed one of Konoha's sannin and famous throughout the ninja world. I know of him." Yamato started to object, thinking of the risks, but then thought better of it. They had already altered things. Meeting Jiraiya might not be a disaster, and could be important to Naruto. Please, Naruto pleaded. I want to see him just once. Mu Yue sighed, warm and sympathetic. I'll do what I can, but I can't promise. Jiraiya is currently serving as a commander in the campaign against Iwagakure. He may be hard to pin down. He looked at them all. For now, it might be best if you don't leave Rurin. There's much to learn here, and fewer risks than drifting into more timelines. Naruto nodded, content for the moment. Obito, cramped but listening, kept his anger and hope tucked tight inside. Kakashi, still pressed in the wardrobe, tightened his grip on the sword's hilt, as if he could hold fate at bay. They had no answers yet for everything that had happened, but for the first time since the anomaly, there was a plan. Search carefully, gather more information, and try, somehow, to keep the people they loved alive. Since the Lulan Dragon Vein is what brought you through time, don't leave Lulan unless you have to. If you lose contact with the vein, you might not be able to return, Mu Yue warned. Taking Uzumaki Naruto to the grass country battlefield would make meeting Jiraiya easier. But if they strayed too far and severed their tether to Lulan, they could be stranded. For Mu Yue, an extra Naruto in the world was useful. He wouldn't have to personally find a way to become Nagato's teacher. Naruto could simply fill the fifth disciple role. Naruto already had considerable talent. With Mu Yue's guidance and some sage training, he could become a major asset. But for the rest of that timeline, it was less than ideal. Without Naruto's power, the ninja world might head toward an unknown fate. For Mu Yue, Nagato was still the best candidate to be his fifth disciple. I'll be careful, big brother Mu Yue. Whatever happens, thank you so much, Naruto said gratefully. Even if Mu Yue later failed to arrange a meeting with Jiraiya, Naruto wouldn't blame him. He knew Mu Yue had tried. It was their first meeting and they were from different times, yet Mu Yue had chosen to help. That showed Mu Yue was not someone to treat promises lightly. Thank you, Lord Mu Yue, Yamato said with respect. The more he interacted with Mu Yue, the more he regretted that such an excellent shinobi had met an early fate. You don't have to call me Lord, just call me Mu Yue. I'm not your senior in age or rank, Mu Yue said with a gentle smile. By age, Yamato was 7 years older than him. It felt odd to be called Lord over someone younger. All right, Senpai Mu Yue, Yamato conceded after a moment, still keeping an honorific out of habit. Mu Yue said nothing more and left the room. As the door opened and closed, the three hidden in the closet let out long-held breaths. They'd been so tense at the thought of being discovered, they'd barely dared to breathe. Obito was about to step out, but Kakashi put a hand on his shoulder and shook his head. Obito blinked and then waited. Kakashi didn't move until 3 full minutes had passed. After all, it's Mu Yue-sensei. We have to be cautious, Kakashi explained quietly, worried the noise of opening the closet would be noticed. Obito scratched his head. Kakashi was being overly careful, but he couldn't hide his impatience. The moment they were alone, he ran over to Naruto and Yamato and blurted, "When did Minato-sensei die? How did it happen?" He'd almost heard everything through the closet, interrupted only by Rin. He didn't blame her. Rin was kind. She meant no harm. Yamato didn't answer immediately, but looked at Kakashi, since he'd promised to shoulder the burden alone. Kakashi glanced at Obito's anxious face and Rin's worried eyes and thought hard. He didn't want them dragged in. The guilt would eat them alive if things went wrong. "Just tell them," Kakashi said at last. He walked over, sat down beside Obito, and looked at Yamato. Even if he wanted to carry the burden himself, Obito and Rin already knew pieces. Sending them away now would only subject them to endless self-reproach if he failed. "Captain Yamato, please, tell us," Naruto urged. He understood Kakashi's feelings. He'd wanted to run to Jiraiya himself to try to change his fate. Yamato took a breath and laid out what he knew. The fourth Hokage died during the Nine-Tails rampage. It was about a year after the Third Shinobi World War. The fourth died sealing the Nine-Tails? Naruto stared at himself in shock. The Nine-Tails was sealed inside him. "Yes. The beast inside you caused the attack," Yamato said gently. "Naruto, don't blame yourself. It was the tailed beast's actions. It's not your fault." Yamato felt it was unjust to blame a Jinchuriki for a tailed beast's crimes. Naruto, who might have been an infant when the rampage occurred, had nothing to do with it. Naruto nodded solemnly, more determined than ever to control the Nine Tails rather than be controlled by it. Asuma died in battle not long before we traveled through time, Yamato-kan continued. In our era, there's a rogue organization called Akatsuki. Its members are S-rank missing nin from various villages who steal tailed beasts. Asuma was killed by Akatsuki members. At the mention of Asuma, Yamato's eyes dulled as he thought of the izakaya nights they'd shared. If they could change Asuma's fate, that would be a good start. Kakashi pulled out a pen and scroll and wrote down everything Yamato said. The Akatsuki were a name to remember. If they could prevent the organization from forming, they might stop many future tragedies. Could the Nine Tails rampage be connected to the Akatsuki? Kakashi wondered aloud. The Akatsuki's goal was tailed beasts. Konoha's Nine Tails would be a prime target. Perhaps a failed Akatsuki scheme angered the beast. He kept his thoughts tentative. He needed more data on tailed beasts before drawing conclusions. Are you sure you don't know anything about Mu Yue, Obito, or Rin? Kakashi asked Yamato, watching him closely. Earlier Yamato had said he didn't know them, but now he'd committed to changing history. There was a chance he'd lied. I really want to help, but I truly don't know, Yamato said honestly. He'd already decided to help, so he had no reason to hide the truth. I suspect Mu Yue died earlier than the fourth Hokage, probably during the Third Shinobi World War, Yamato added after thinking. Mu Yue's lack of fame in later generations suggested he hadn't survived long enough to be widely remembered. Kakashi found the conjecture reasonable. War was deadly. Even a strong shinobi could fall. Damn war. I have to end it, Obito muttered through clenched teeth. He hated war and dreamed of becoming Hokage to stop it. Rin shared his sentiment. She wanted to be stronger so Kakashi and Obito wouldn't worry about her. For Rin and Obito, I'm not sure, Yamato continued. They might have died in the Third Shinobi World War, the Nine Tails Rampage, or later conflicts with Iwa or Kumo. Many skirmishes followed the main war. Tell us about the Third Shinobi World War, Kakashi said bluntly. If members of Mu Yue's squad were to die in that war, he needed as much intelligence as he could get. Yamato admitted he didn't know many details. He hadn't been a shinobi in that war. He'd been in Danzo's secret training. And he wasn't a history buff. But I remember Konoha fought against the 4 great shinobi villages and the Land of Fire was invaded several times, he said slowly. The idea of all 4 great villages involved shocked Kakashi. Kumo, Suna, Iwa, and Konoha? All 4? Kakashi's brow tightened. Konoha would have been overwhelmed. Yamato clarified that the other villages hadn't been united. While Konoha fought some, Kumogakure fought Sunagakure, and Iwagakure fought Kumogakure. The third Raikage, Yamato said, actually died surrounded by Iwa forces, a grim reminder of war's cruelty. That's all I know, Yamato finished apologetically. Kakashi rolled up his scroll and thanked him solemnly. You don't need to apologize. If we're changing history, and it fails, you and Naruto would be burdened unfairly. We should be the ones saying thanks. Do your best, Senpai Kakashi. I believe in you, Yamato encouraged. Naruto added, bright-eyed, Kakashi-sensei's never let us down. When this is over, I'll treat Mu Yue and you all to ramen. Obito, fired up, declared he would protect Minato, Kakashi, Rin, and Asuma with everything he had. Kakashi muttered at Obito's theatrical phrasing, but Rin ushered them off to sleep. Missions awaited in the morning. They split up the next day. Kakashi and his team continued investigating on Lushan. Naruto and Yamato searched for leads on 100 Feet. Mu Yue went to see the Queen of Lulan. Any progress? The Queen asked Mu Yue when he arrived. Mu Yue replied with a question. Minister on Lushan, is he a shinobi? The Queen hesitated and nodded. Lulan didn't have many shinobi, but she knew the term. I found evidence that An Lushan's strength exceeds a B-rank mission, Mu Yue said lightly. He hadn't done hours of investigation. He had the advantage of knowing the plot, but he phrased it as if he'd uncovered new intel. The Queen, shrewd and proud, immediately realized he implied the original mission rank had been a mistake. Her confidence faltered. I apologize. I don't know much about shinobi matters, the Queen said. If you can add to the commission, Mu Yue cut in. There's more. Queen, is there anything about An Lushan you haven't told us? The Queen's expression tightened. She had concealed something. The secret was about Lulan's safety and what had driven their rapid development over the past 2 years. She couldn't reveal it lightly. Mu Yue waited, 3 minutes later, he spoke again. And Lushan is a hidden sand shinobi, skilled in puppet jutsu. He's been hoarding puppets for combat, though I don't know his purpose. The queen's face changed. She'd once cooperated with An Lushan. Beneath Lulan lay a powerful energy called the Ryumyaku. The royal family could awaken control of it. That power had helped secure their rule. And Lushan had initially assisted Lulan by using Ryumyaku power to help development. But he was a rogue ninja, and the queen had ended their cooperation when she suspected him. There may be a connection, Mu Yue continued. I met other Konoha shinobi yesterday. They'd been assigned to capture a hidden sand rogue and found the target had arrived in Lulan 2 years ago. I think An Lushan might be that rogue, 100 feet. The queen's composure broke. It fit. An Lushan had come 2 years ago, puppets matched, and his sudden rise in Lulan had seemed too convenient. The queen bowed and confessed. I concealed this. I didn't intend harm. I thought it would help Lulan. The Ryumyaku is powerful. We used it to advance, but once I sensed oddities, I stopped. She explained the Ryumyaku's danger. Small doses could make an ordinary person a superhuman fighter, but the drawback was death soon after. The royal family rarely used it because people were Lulan's most precious resource. That explains it, and Lushan is likely 100 feet, Mu Yue agreed. He didn't want to rush to action yet. They needed more evidence and to reveal An Lushan's true nature in a way that wouldn't cause chaos. If An Lushan overplayed his hand, he might self-destruct. Mu Yue would pick the moment carefully. The queen was relieved and impressed by Konoha's efficiency. She promised to cooperate and thanked Mu Yue. Afterward, Mu Yue went to feel the Ryumyaku again. He engaged all his senses, transparent world, Byakugan, sensing arts, and used an enlightenment skill that had refreshed. In this heightened state, he felt the Ryumyaku intimately connected to the land of Lulan. A thought struck him. Could the divine tree be absorbing planetary chakra similar to Ryumyaku? If so, the energy shouldn't be used recklessly. Draining too much could doom Lulan itself. That evening, he returned to the inn and briefed the others. Naruto looked at him in awe. So, An Lushan is 100 feet after all, just like you thought, Senpai Mu Yue. Senpai Mu Yue, your speed is astonishing, Yamato said. Mu Yue explained their approach. They knew the enemy had been building strength in Lulan for 2 years. The advantage was they were hidden, and the adversary was exposed. First, gather more intelligence to learn An Lushan's current strength. Second, some pre-battle training to raise everyone's combat capability. His plan was practical. Naruto and Yamato would spar against Mu Yue's team in turns, helping give his disciples real opponents while themselves being coached. Mu Yue would guide the process and shape Naruto and Yamato's development. Yamato's eyes lit up at the chance to legitimately beat his senpai in training. Obito's face burned with the resolve to get stronger. Kakashi rolled up his notes, already plotting how to use every informant and training hour. They had a long fight ahead of them, but now, at least, they had direction. Chapter 386, Yang Attribute Breathing Method. I wonder what it feels like to punch Kakashi-sensei's head, Uzumaki Naruto chimed with a mischievous chuckle. He'd seen Yamato look blissful after smacking Kakashi on the head last night, and he wanted to try it too. Kakashi, still working out a battle plan, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He reached up and touched the back of his head, looking around in confusion, but there was nothing wrong. Who goes first? Mu Yue asked, glancing at Yamato and Naruto. I'm the captain. Let me go first. Yamato stepped forward immediately, as if it were obvious. Why should the captain go first? I'll go, Naruto replied, rubbing his hands together. Though they were answering Mu Yue, both kept sneaking looks at Kakashi, which only made Kakashi more puzzled. Why were they staring at him? He checked himself with the White Fang short sword's pristine blade and found nothing odd. Yamato spoke first, so he'll go first, Mu Yue decided after a moment. They'd already felt Naruto's massive chakra on the first day. Letting Yamato, with his wood release, take the lead seemed wiser now. Yamato smiled faintly and stepped before Kakashi's team, forming the confrontation seal. Kakashi and his companions returned the seal. Begin, Mu Yue called. No sooner had Mu Yue spoken than Kakashi and Obito focused their breathing technique to heighten their physical abilities. Fire release, great fireball technique, Obito shouted. Obito formed hand signs, gathered chakra at his throat, and expelled it into a massive fireball launched straight at Yamato. Rin Nohara, in her water-breathing state, sprinted forward and hurled several shuriken toward him. Wood release, wood locking wall. Yamato responded calmly, making hand signs. Under wood release chakra, wooden pillars shot up and curved into an arch, sheltering him inside. The great fireball slammed into the wooden arch with a thunderous boom. Flames scattered wildly, but to Obito's surprise, the arch held. It was scorched but not breached. Yamato's wooden barrier stopped Rin's shuriken as well. Wood release wood isn't ordinary. Don't underestimate it, Kakashi warned, gripping his sword. Though Mu Yue had defeated Yamato easily before, Kakashi would not underestimate a bloodline limit even if it had only shown up on the ninja god. Normally, he would use the speed of lightning breathing under cover of Obito's fire to strike, but this wood release user was unknown to him, so he'd gather intel first. Wood release, thorn kill. Yamato burst from behind the wall, running and forming more seals. Thorn-like wood jutted from the ground, lunging at the three of them. Obito again entered flame-breathing chakra mode. He refused to believe his flames couldn't burn some sticks. Training was for bold moves. In a real fight, he wouldn't be so reckless. Fire release, flame fist. Obito concentrated chakra into his fist. In flame breathing, it became blazing flame. He compressed the fire around his fist, holding it tight. Just as the wooden thorns were about to hit him, Obito unleashed his flaming punch with devastating force. The wood snapped under the combined power and heat. What kind of ninjutsu is this? Won't the flames hurt him? Yamato muttered, baffled. Fire-based taijutsu wasn't common theory, yet Obito's technique was effective. Flash! Lightning erupted from Kakashi's feet and palms. With lightning release and the breathing technique boosting him, Kakashi's speed and power surged. One sprint and a single sword swing severed the wood blocking him and Rin. The cut pieces fell uselessly aside. If Obito's move had confused Yamato, Kakashi's was astonishing. In Yamato's memory, Kakashi was a consummate jonin who used ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, or the Sharingan. Swordplay hadn't been what Yamato expected from him. Is it because of the Sharingan? Yamato wondered, thinking the eye might have altered Kakashi's style. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. Obito immediately launched a volley of flaming shuriken. He knew Yamato wide water techniques, so he avoided his strongest Fire Dragon Flame Bullet for a more precise, penetrating barrage. Wood release, Violent Gun Tree. Yamato formed seals without changing his expression, performing water and earth chakra transformations to produce wood release. A giant tree burst up and blocked the incoming attacks. Kakashi pushed his breathing technique to the extreme and entered the transparent world, preparing to go all out with Obito. But he seemed to pause for a beat. He gave Obito a look, then continued charging Yamato. Obito didn't know Kakashi's plan, but he followed, charging at full force. Rin kept watchful to support with water release. Suddenly another Yamato appeared behind Rin. The figure that had rushed out was only a wood clone. The real Yamato had burrowed underground with earth release and circled to Rin's side. Even a younger Kakashi remained a reliable senpai. Flash! Double strike! Kakashi used the large tree Yamato had made to change direction and double back with even greater speed. He'd noticed Yamato's underground movement while in the transparent world, but pretended not to, luring him. The wood clone tried to block Kakashi, but Obito, in flame-breathing chakra mode, barreled forward and launched a flame fist. Yamato, making a split-second decision, abandoned Rin for the moment and produced many giant trees to stop Kakashi. Rin, seeing Kakashi charging toward her, gathered chakra and threw a heavy punch behind her. But Yamato had already moved. Rin's blow missed. Kakashi chopped down many blocking trees but couldn't hit Yamato. He pulled Rin away at high speed, not frustrated. Yamato had been an Anbu captain. If he lost due to a slip-up, that would worry him. The wood clone transformed into vines to bind Obito, but Obito's skin erupted in flames, incinerating the vines and freeing him. That's impressive. If it were me a few years ago and I'd known nothing about their intelligence, I might have truly lost, Yamato admitted silently. Mu Yue's team exceeded his expectations. Kakashi and Obito were operating at jonin level. Rin didn't stand out yet, but her combat instincts were solid. Would release Tree World Advent. Yamato mobilized a massive amount of chakra and performed his strongest wood release technique, though he lacked the chakra for the true tree world advent. Instead, he produced a scaled-down version, a Tree Sea advent. Dozens of large trees erupted and surrounded Kakashi and his companions. "Is this what a wood-release ninja can do?" Obito exclaimed as the golden landscape suddenly shifted into a small forest. Under Yamato's control, the trees attacked with branches. These were not for decoration. Fire release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. Obito now unleashed his strongest wide-area fire, boosted by flame breathing, and exhaled a sea of fire that engulfed many of the growing branches. The fire spread, turning trees into burning trunks. Rin was forced to use water release to protect herself and Kakashi. For Obito, in flame-breathing mode, the flames were less harmful, but his chakra was draining fast. He could only maintain the mode briefly. Even though his chakra had increased recently for reasons unknown and he might have lasted longer than before, he was near exhaustion. Kakashi nodded. Obito had cleared much of the obstacle. Now the outcome rested with him. Though the flames clouded vision, Kakashi's transparent world pierced the haze and located Yamato at the forest's edge. Water release, Water Wave Palm. Seeing the raging fire, Yamato released a wave-like water release to try and douse Obito's flames. Sizzle, the water hissed against the heat. Kakashi exhaled a white breath and channeled all his accumulated chakra into lightning release, his body gleaming with electricity. He gripped the White Fang short sword, every ounce of strength focused. Lightning flash, a thunderclap split the fire. Dazzling electric light cut through the flames, cleaving the incoming water wave and charging toward Yamato like a blade through air. Yamato, surprised, realized Kakashi had been holding back. Tall trees sprang up to block him. Those unlit by flame threw themselves in his path. Lightning streaked through, and giant trees fell. Kakashi pressed forward relentlessly. Yamato calmly fed chakra into the defense. Branches and vines were slashed away, and Kakashi's body began to tire. At 10 meters out, Kakashi slowed. At 5 meters, he finally ran out of strength and failed to bisect a tree in one swing. Thick branches snagged him and bound him. Yamato breathed easier. This battle had been harder than he'd expected. Young Kakashi's style and strength had surprised him. Obito's fire dragon was terrifying too. Its power rivaled many Jonin's finest. Seeing Kakashi pinned and powerless, Yamato couldn't resist. He gave Kakashi another gentle whack on the head. He felt instantly refreshed and far more comfortable. Kakashi looked at him in bemusement. The hit was meaningless. Kakashi wouldn't have lost ability because of it. "Sorry, I couldn't help it when I saw your face," Yamato said with an apologetic shrug. If Kakashi ever met someone in the future who looked and was named Yamato, he'd have no hesitation in punching them too, and if questioned, he'd claim it was an involuntary reaction. "Senpai Kakashi, why did you give up lightning release sword techniques?" Yamato asked, puzzled. He thought Kakashi had real talent with the sword. If he kept at it, he could become even stronger. The current Kakashi, before he was 10, already had the strength to defeat a Jonin. If he trained for another 17 years, Hokage-level power wasn't impossible. But the young Kakashi couldn't answer, only the Kakashi of the future could. Yamato stowed his confusion and continued training. With Kakashi out of the fight, he wrapped up the remaining Obito and Rin more easily, and the training session ended soon after. They debriefed. Mu Yue reviewed everyone's mistakes and offered guidance. They moved to a new training ground after Yamato's wood release and Obito's fire release had left the area a mess. Naruto's bout with Kakashi was straightforward. He used multiple Shadow Clone and Rasengan, no tricks, and overwhelmed Kakashi and the others with sheer numbers and power. He even managed to land the head hit on Kakashi he'd wanted and couldn't resist laughing afterward. It was hard not to. This was his future teacher, but Naruto couldn't help himself. When training ended, Kakashi's expression darkened. Now he understood that earlier bad premonition. If history allowed him to teach Naruto again, he would be sure to show Naruto some teacherly love. "Big brother Naruto, are those the only 2 ninjutsu you know?" Obito complained afterward. He envied Naruto's chakra pool. Shadow Clone seemed not to drain it. If Obito had Naruto's reserves, flame breathing could be used like total concentration breathing. "Of course not. Don't underestimate me," Naruto protested. He also knew Sexy Jutsu, Harem Jutsu, and Rasen Shuriken. Sometimes sticking to and refining one useful ninjutsu is effective, Mu Yue observed. Though Naruto leaned heavily on Shadow Clone and Rasengan, it didn't make him weak. Big brother Naruto's Rasengan is useful, Obito conceded. It needed no hand seals and packed enormous power. Obito, if you want to learn, I can teach you, Naruto offered generously. He felt compatibility with Obito and had no problem teaching him. Helping Obito improve would also help change history in Kakashi and the others' favor. I want to learn. Obito seized the chance. Mu Yue's expression was faintly complicated. Teaching Rasengan to Obito would be almost like replicating the technique from scratch. Still, Mu Yue didn't dampen Obito's enthusiasm. He already knew Rasengan and could help if needed. After 2 defeats, Kakashi, Obito, and Rin dove into night training with tireless fighting spirit, while Mu Yue guided Naruto and Yamato. Naruto didn't need lessons on Shadow Clone and Rasengan, so Mu Yue focused on Taijutsu for him. Thanks to Metkai, Mu Yue had many Taijutsu insights. In Konoha, few understood Taijutsu as deeply as Mu Yue. He'd acquired cheat-like experience others couldn't. For Yamato, Mu Yue taught water release and water breathing. Yamato often used wood, earth, and water in battle. Mu Yue lacked the wood release bloodline limit himself, and though his earth release transformation was proficient, it wasn't exceptional. Mu Yue could teach breathing techniques, but he hadn't yet developed one suited to Naruto. Naruto's personality fit flame breathing, but Naruto didn't use fire release. Learning flame breathing would be less useful than wind breathing, which could amplify the Rasen Shuriken. Mu Yue had been developing a yang attribute breathing technique. He thought combining yang with fire might yield a prototype of sun breathing. Naruto had come too early. Mu Yue's yang attribute method wasn't ready. If Naruto had arrived months later, Mu Yue might have had a working prototype. Enhance chakra shape transformation, enhance water release power. Yamato was stunned when Mu Yue explained water breathing's effects. As an Anbu captain, he'd seen many secret techniques, but nothing as comprehensive. Body enhancement, accelerated injury recovery, and direct boosts to water release. If trained far enough, one could enter water-breathing chakra mode and use water release freely. Yamato had never even heard of such a secret technique before. Did it vanish because Senpai Mu Yue died in battle? He wondered darkly, thinking of one possibility. He looked at Mu Yue with complicated eyes. He'd admired this man in only 2 days. Senpai Mu Yue, don't you want to know the future? Aren't you worried you might meet misfortune? Yamato asked tactfully, hoping to warn Mu Yue. No need. Our future we will create ourselves, Mu Yue replied with a gentle smile. Yamato sighed inwardly, but under Mu Yue's careful instruction, quickly immersed himself in water breathing. He realized Mu Yue was an exceptional teacher too. Evaluation. Reward water release chakra nature transformation +2, water breathing +1. Taijutsu experience slightly increased. When training ended, Mu Yue was surprised to receive an S-rank lecture reward. Based on his experience, lecture rewards usually required dozens of students. The only prior exception had been when he taught Minato and Kushina. Uzumaki, Naruto, and Yamato didn't seem on that level, so Mu Yue puzzled over the system's judgment. He realized the system evaluated potential rigidly, often basing assessment on chakra. Naruto and Yamato had enormous chakra. Considering the 9 tails inside Kushina and Naruto, Mu Yue speculated even more boldly. Maybe Naruto and Kushina were the real triggers for the reward, with Yamato and Minato just padding the numbers. An idea struck him. If he used the yang attribute breathing technique he was developing as lecture content, could that accelerate its development? To test his idea, Mu Yue rearranged their schedule. Starting on the 3rd day, they trained all day and investigated at night. No one objected. Mu Yue's disciples and Naruto and Yamato all followed his plan. They already had enough information to finish their missions. Further investigation would only stabilize their chances and reduce the Onlushan incident's fallout on Lulan. Cutting investigation time made sense. Everyone's been training non-stop. You must be tired. How about a late-night snack? Mu Yue suggested, looking at the weary group. Late-night snack? Ramen? Naruto's fatigue vanished, and an excited grin spread across his face. A hot bowl of Ichiraku after training would be bliss. Instant ramen would do in a pinch, but eating together meant company during the wait. Yamato glanced up at a clear, star-spattered sky. It's pretty late. I think only izakayas would still be open, he said honestly. An ordinary ramen shop wouldn't stay open past midnight. He was glad to go along with Mu Yue, but he hesitated. Naruto wasn't yet an adult, and Kakashi and the others were even younger, and izakaya wouldn't be appropriate. Then it looks like Big Brother Naruto's in luck, Obito said, already assuming Mu Yue would cook. After all, Mu Yue was their senior. Of course he had considered it. We're not going out. I'll cook, Mu Yue said. He had prepared everything before training. Obito grinned, and Kakashi and Rin started to look forward to the meal. It had been a while since they'd had Mu Yue's cooking. Yamato, curious, asked, "Is Mu Yue really that good at cooking?" He'd wanted to help in the kitchen. He was learning Mu Yue's ninjutsu and didn't like freeloading, but Mu Yue refused. "You can clean up afterward," he told Yamato. "I'll handle the cooking." "More than good," Obito declared with theatrical sincerity. "Teacher Mu Yue's cooking's like a high-level ninjutsu. Nothing in the ninja world compares." Obito adored his grandmother's food, but even so, Mu Yue's skill was legendary to those who'd tasted it. Yamato's expression stayed skeptical. Obito's praise might be idol worship, but when Kakashi spoke seriously, Yamato took him at his word. "His cooking skill rivals his ninja strength," Kakashi said. "He could probably earn more as a chef than as a shinobi." Kakashi wasn't one to exaggerate, and if he vouched for it, Yamato believed him. "I'm really looking forward to it," Naruto said, peering toward the kitchen. While waiting, the talk drifted. Obito asked, "By the way, who's the fifth Hokage?" "Tsunade," Naruto replied. "Granny Tsunade." Rin blinked. "Lady Tsunade became the fifth Hokage?" she said in disbelief. She didn't doubt Tsunade's ability. Indeed, the three Sannin had all been contenders for fourth Hokage, but Rin knew Tsunade had no wish to shoulder paperwork and administration. The idea of Tsunade at a desk all morning worried her. "Granny Tsunade?" Obito scratched his head. He remembered Tsunade being contemporaneous with the Toad Sage. Didn't she seem old to be Hokage? "Rin, how strong is she?" "She could probably punch you so hard you wouldn't get up," Rin warned. "And don't call her Granny." Mu Yue spent a while preparing, since they were 6 hungry ninjas who just trained. Naruto, Yamato, Kakashi, Rin, Obito, and the others chatted while the scent of cooking filled the air. Obito discovered that Naruto had been last in every subject at the academy, theory and jutsu both. "I knew you felt familiar. Guy!" Obito laughed. Kakashi's mouth twitched. Someone really had no self-awareness. When the food appeared, the table was much more lavish than Naruto had expected. Dishes he'd never seen. Many ingredients Mu Yue stored in scrolls were rare in Lulan. Everyone stood, ceremoniously said, "Itadakimasu," and dug in. Naruto picked up a piece of tempura. The batter was crisp. Inside, the shrimp was moist and tender. He hadn't expected such delight in a single bite. Then something strange happened. He felt dizzy, and when he opened his eyes, he was in a magnificent blue world, swimming among countless fish and shrimp. Reaching out, he found his hand was a claw. He had turned into a shrimp, and he swam, carefree. He came back to the dining table and blinked. The ocean and its creatures were gone. "Big Brother Mu Yue." "Amazing." Naruto gave Mu Yue a thumbs up. He couldn't think of any other word. He remembered Obito boasting before dinner that Mu Yue's cooking could make you see forests, oceans, and volcanoes. Now he knew Obito's hyperbole had footing in the truth. Yamato tasted a dish and looked at Mu Yue as if he'd been caught in a genjutsu. Obito's exaggerations weren't exaggerations at all. Mu Yue, smiling, told them to hurry and eat. They realized Obito and the others had been practically trembling over their food, so they dug in, chopsticks a blur. "Best late-night snack ever," Naruto sighed when he finished, already wanting more. Yamato felt fortunate to have met Mu Yue, who'd helped them with their mission, taught them secret techniques, and now fed them such extraordinary food. Mu Yue only smiled. To him, it was all small favors. The next morning, they trained early. Mu Yue announced, "Today, no taijutsu. I'll teach you yang-release breathing. This will be difficult. Naruto, be serious about it." Teaching wasn't just for rewards. It mattered whether the students learned. Yang-release breathing was a secret technique Mu Yue was developing, and he warned it would be hard. Naruto nodded earnestly. Whether it was facing Akatsuki or bringing back Sasuke, strength mattered. Naruto truly wanted to train hard to repay Mu Yue. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. Naruto formed the seals, burst with chakra, and created dozens of clones. If one brain wasn't enough, dozens would think together. Before yang release breathing, you must understand two things: yang release chakra, nature transformation, and breathing. Mu Yue began. He knew Naruto's fundamentals were weak, so he started at the beginning, explaining yang release chakra. Dozens of Narutos listened. Naruto had only heard about yang release when Yamato mentioned it in passing while training wind release. Mu Yue lectured for 40 minutes, paused to let them digest. Naruto dispelled his clones to organize his memories, then made dozens more when Mu Yue resumed. By midday, Mu Yue had taught Naruto yang release chakra, nature transformation, and basic breathing. The multiple shadow clone jutsu accelerated Naruto's learning. He picked up material fast, though such a method placed an enormous strain on body and mind and wasn't viable for most people. In the afternoon, Mu Yue began teaching the developing yang release breathing. Since it wasn't complete, most of his time was spent on theory. Yang release breathing enhances physical energy and strengthens techniques related to yang release chakra, nature transformation. To maximize a technique's power, you must eventually integrate yang release breathing into other techniques. Mu Yue hadn't obtained the system's localized sun breathing, but he extrapolated from existing breath techniques. Sun breathing and flame breathing are both fire-based, and in the original Demon Slayer, sun breathing was much stronger. In this world, a localized sun breathing would likely blend yang release chakra or natural energy with fire, producing far stronger flames. Mu Yue hadn't encountered senjutsu or natural energy techniques yet, so he started with yang release. The biggest difference for his development was yang release breathing's potential. Early on, it was only a hair better than basic breathing and far harder to learn, but the paths it could take were many. With deep cultivation, it could make the body's energy incredibly powerful. Healing without hand signs might become possible, and it could fuse with other breath styles and evolve towards something like sun breathing. Mu Yue also taught Yamato some water release. With Yamato's chakra, powerful water release techniques might rival wood release in actual combat, though wood release had unique uses like suppressing tailed beast chakra. Lecture completed. Rating: S. Reward: yang release chakra, nature transformation +9, basic breathing +12, yang release breathing +2, water release chakra, nature transformation +1. As the rewards settled, cultivation memories surfaced in Mu Yue's head. He smiled. If things went well, he could finish the preliminary development of yang release breathing within a month. That evening, he prepared another sumptuous dinner as a reward. This time everyone ate in concentrated silence, having learned from the first meal that Yue's cooking required full attention. After they rested, it was time for the investigation mission. Mu Yue sent a shadow clone to follow Kakashi and the others, while his main body continued researching the Ryumyaku. A week of this routine gave Obito and the others enough evidence. They decided to capture An Lushan that night. This guy imprisons civilians in an underground factory making puppets and even performs human experiments. He smiles to their faces. Doesn't he feel any shame? Obito said indignantly. With Mu Yue's Byakugan, they'd located An Lushan's underground factory and exposed his crimes. We won't let him escape, Naruto vowed, clenching his fists. He wanted to teach An Lushan a lesson with Rasengan. Release the evidence. Forget about protecting him. Those civilians would probably want to execute him on the spot, Kakashi said. The preparations were thorough. Then we move tomorrow. I'll ask the queen to arrange a meeting with An Lushan, Mu Yue decided. An Lushan was a puppeteer. His strength came from his puppets. If they fought him in his stronghold, he'd have many backups. Having the queen arrange a meeting outside would limit him to the puppets he carried, reducing his advantage. Mu Yue preferred a full-strength lion for a rabbit-level catch. Better safe than sorry. Keep these kunai safe. If there's danger, I can appear instantly, Mu Yue said, taking 2 Flying Thunder God kunai from his pouch and giving them to Naruto and Yamato. This would protect them, and if needed, prevent An Lushan's death. Mu Yue planned to seal him first. If An Lushan died, Naruto would immediately travel back in time. It wasn't time for that yet. Everyone agreed. They broke for the night. Has she finally decided to cooperate with me again? An Lushan thought as he arrived at an inspection in western Lulan. This poor, underdeveloped land had nothing to offer but the Ryumyaku. He was pleased. The queen's invitation to discuss development could be an opportunity. He'd even thought of assassinating the queen and putting Princess Sarah on the throne. Sarah supposedly had similar abilities to the queen and would be easier to control. But Anlushan's real goal was to absorb Ryumyaku power, not rule Lulan. The west was empty and dotted with abandoned houses. Led by soldiers, Anlushan found the queen on inspection. He forced a smile. "Your Majesty, I have a development plan here. Someone like you should be able to see it's good." He hinted around the Ryumyaku without naming it. "Even if it costs a little, we should develop this area." The queen's handkerchief slipped. In a flash, the 4 soldiers flanking them, and Anlushan drew their swords and lunged, but their blades cut his clothing and stopped, like striking steel. Anlushan's smile vanished. To resist the Ryumyaku's power, he had long since altered himself into a puppet body. Ordinary swords were a mere tickle. He considered his contingency, kill the queen and raise Sarah to power. But before he could move, wooden bars sprouted from the ground, binding him. The soldiers backed away, and Naruto and the others leaped out from hiding. Naruto condensed chakra, rotating and compressing it into a high-speed rotating ball. He slammed a Rasengan into Anlushan's chest. Flash! Kakashi, concentrating lightning breathing to increase explosiveness, sliced toward Anlushan's legs with his lightning blade. Anlushan tried to break the wooden bonds, but the bars were much stronger than he'd expected. Kakashi's blade severed his legs. Naruto's Rasengan tore through clothing and outer layers, exposing puppet components beneath. Risingly easy, Obito thought, as Anlushan took heavy damage. He assumed the fight was over. "Don't be careless until the enemy is finished," Mu Yue said, walking over to the queen. Anlushan had already absorbed a fair amount of Ryumyaku. He wouldn't fall that easily. Naruto's Rasengan shattered the wooden restraints, and Anlushan rolled free. He pulled out a scroll and activated the Ryumyaku within his body. A puppet stored in the scroll unfolded and repaired his damaged components, making him stronger. "You're a persistent ghost," Anlushan cursed as he dodged. He had assumed Naruto and others hadn't followed him through time. He hadn't expected this, and certainly not these unfamiliar companions. He unleashed 2 more scrolls, releasing 6 tall puppets. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito spat a concentrated flame that roared into a colossal fireball, instantly destroying one puppet. Rasengan. Naruto multiplied with clones and together demolished 2 puppets. Wood release, impaling wood. Yamato extended wooden bars and impaled a puppet. Lightning release, false darkness. Kakashi condensed lightning chakra and thrust a lightning spear that pierced another puppet. Rin Nohara used the short chakra blade Naruto had given her to sever the chakra threads of one puppet, cutting off its control. All 6 puppets Slamka and Lushan had just released were destroyed, and Lushan's face went dark. Those had been most of the puppets he carried. He only had 10 total, and 3 remained. He released the last 3 puppets and then fled toward his underground base. If he could reach it, more puppets inside could turn the tide. "As long as I can reach that place, I'll be fine," he thought. Hope returned. But Mu Yue's team had set the battlefield. As Anlushan bolted, Kakashi silently detonated dozens of pre-buried explosive tags. Boom, boom, boom! A thunderous series of explosions and a blinding flash swallowed Anlushan and the 3 puppets covering his retreat. The queen exhaled in relief. She'd planned to bring Princess Sarah for experience, but had abandoned that for safety reasons. Thick smoke and dust rose, obscuring Anlushan from view. Naruto and the others stared into the haze, straining to see what remained of him. "This guy's vitality is unreal," Obito muttered as the thick smoke cleared. The 3 puppets Anlushan had sent out lay shattered, but Anlushan himself remained standing, his body ragged and torn. He ground his teeth as he stared at Uzumaki, Naruto, and the others. "You forced my hand," he said. Seeing no way to flee, he opted to fight to the death. If he had to die, he would take 2 of them with him. Anlushan pushed his dragon vein chakra to its limit. The broken puppet fragments scattered on the ground flew back to him, drawn like iron filings to a magnet. These weren't ordinary puppets. They'd been enhanced with dragon vein energy and could fuse with their master to increase his power. As he absorbed the shards, his silhouette ballooned into something monstrous, no longer human. He glanced at the Queen of Lulun, then feinted toward Obito. When Obito responded with a fire release attack, Anlushan shifted and accelerated toward the Queen instead. The two people he most wanted to eliminate were Naruto and the Queen. One had chased him through time and space, the other had led him into this trap. Naruto, however, was clearly not easy prey. Anlushan decided to seize the Queen first, use her as a means to escape, or kill her on the spot if flight proved impossible. These Konoha ninjas were sloppy, he thought with a sneer. Their formation was loose. Only one blonde ninja stood by the Queen while the rest kept a distance. The blonde had not moved earlier. He must not be very strong, Anlushan concluded. If he were truly powerful, he would be on the offensive, not guarding a client. Yamato, Kakashi, and Naruto poured out jutsu after jutsu, but Anlushan stubbornly endured and kept closing in on the Queen. If he had been an ordinary ninja, he'd be overwhelmed, but this Anlushan was different. Though battered, he would not die easily. Watching Anlushan charge straight for Mu Yue, Obito and the others exchanged startled looks. Mu Yue had told them before the fight that Anlushan was within their control, so under normal circumstances, Mu Yue wouldn't intervene. Yet here he was. "Queen, you will regret your decision," Anlushan rumbled. The Queen of Lulun, an ordinary person, staggered back half a step at the sight of the enormous charging monster. She steadied herself when she saw Mu Yue beside her. Mu Yue was the captain of this Konoha squad. His subordinates were clearly capable of harming Anlushan, and the captain himself must be even stronger. "Tile breaker!" Mu Yue shouted. He activated rock breathing to enhance his strength, flashed before Anlushan, and struck decisively. He'd held back earlier, letting his team gain experience and hoping to get more reward once the mission was secure. But if Anlushan wanted a beating, Mu Yue was more than willing to deliver one. Anlushan barely had time to register the motion. A blur crossed his vision, and a blonde figure materialized before him. A titanic force slammed into him, and he was hurled backward, crashing into the ground and cracking the earth. Where Mu Yue's blow had landed, a hideous wound gaped as if struck by a colossal blunt blade. Terror flashed in Anlushan's eyes. Mu Yue was stronger than he'd assumed. After the strike, Mu Yue calmly resumed his position beside the Queen, making no further moves. They'd arrived too early, Anlushan thought. Having only absorbed a fraction of his dragon vein energy, his strength was limited. Only the Anlushan of the original tale might have been able to stand toe-to-toe with Mu Yue. Despair flickered, and then hope. If Mu Yue stayed passive, perhaps there was a chance. But Anlushan had underestimated the others. Seeing their captain wounded, Obito entered flame-breathing chakra mode and pushed his power to the limit. His body ignited in intense red flames, which funneled into his right hand until the fire concentrated there into a tightly compressed blaze. "Fire style, Orochi Nagi," Obito bellowed. He hurled the compressed inferno at the rising Anlushan. The enemy was huge, so Obito chose Orochi Nagi, a shorter range but immensely powerful technique, instead of his usual fire dragon flame bullet. Anlushan, not foolish, swelled his dragon vein chakra and tried to dodge. But he'd already been thrown off balance by Mu Yue's blow. Kakashi finished his seals. Earth release, swamp of the underworld. The ground underneath Anlushan collapsed into sucking mud, trapping him. Yamato followed with wood release, thorns of murder technique. Wooden spikes erupted, binding and slowing him further. At the same time, one of Naruto's shadow clones formed a wind-based Rasengan and charged in. The clone couldn't form a full Rasen Shuriken. Rasen Shuriken demanded far too much chakra for a clone, but it could make a wind-release Rasengan, a prototype of Naruto's more deadly technique. Bang! The wind-release Rasengan met Obito's compressed fire at the same instant. The flames exploded across Anlushan's body, and the wind of Naruto's technique stirred the fire into a flaming vortex that engulfed him. The combined effect exceeded even Obito's expectations. The wooden thorns blackened and burned away, the swamp beneath dried instantly, and Anlushan was left charred and tattered. "That combo was insane, big brother Naruto," Obito laughed. Naruto grinned back. He hadn't expected that synergy either. But Anlushan wasn't dead. As a human puppet, he would remain animate as long as his core held. "If I can't live, neither will you," he resolved, preparing to self-destruct and take anyone nearby with him. Purple lightning. Mu Yue had moved behind on Lushan and delivered an electrotherapy shock. When he had struck with Tilebreaker, he'd covertly placed a Flying Thunder God mark on the puppet. Jotian's sealing! Mu Yue closed his hand around An Lushan's core and applied a sealing technique. Jotian's sealing was the culmination of 2 years' work studying sealing arts. He'd intended to develop an 8-trigram-style technique from Minato's ideas, but after stumbling through the 4 symbols method, inspiration struck in a different direction. He modified the 5-element seal, integrating yin and yang natures to stabilize and strengthen it. The result lacked flashy effects, but its sealing power was immense, far stronger than the 4 symbols seal. Mu Yue reckoned only a 6-paths level ninjutsu nullifying effect might break it outright. Deciphering it from a technical standpoint would be 3 times harder than the 5-element seal, and releasing it would require mastery of 7 chakra nature transformations, skills few in the ninja world possessed. Most importantly, a person trapped within couldn't force their own way out. What's happening? My power. An Lushan rasped as his dragon vein energy stilled like stagnant water, unable to be summoned. To ensure your safe return, I'll now study the 100 feet and the dragon vein power within him, Mu Yue explained. He's sealed now. He won't escape. Naruto and Yamato nodded. They still had no clear idea how they'd gotten back here when they had arrived, so Mu Yue's plan to investigate An Lushan's power made sense. Thank you all for Lulan's sake, the queen said, bowing. She looked shaken. She hadn't expected An Lushan to be so cruel or to possess such terrible power. Without Mu Yue and the others, Lulan would have suffered unimaginable destruction. She invited them to attend a grand assembly the next day where she'd publicly expose An Lushan's crimes and honor them as heroes. Mu Yue accepted. He would need the queen's cooperation later, and a little face-saving now would be useful. We saved another country. That's awesome, Obito crowed. He felt like a hero straight out of a novel. 2 countries saved, and he'd met a ninja from the future. Maybe someday he'd even save the future. Obito, aren't you going to meet the Princess of Lulan? Weren't you interested in a princess back in Snow Country? Rin teased, smiling. It won't be like the novels, Obito replied with a sigh. After Snow Country, his romantic expectations had been tempered. Maybe it's the price of growing up, he added, feeling more immature. Fiction comes from reality, but it's still fiction, Kakashi said dryly. Only people with problems expect real life to match stories. Obito countered, haven't you ever heard the saying, fiction comes from reality? Within seconds, he and Kakashi were bickering again, and Naruto laughed. The same dynamic he shared with Sasuke often resurfaced. With An Lushan sealed, there was no more immediate work that night. Naruto used the time to teach Obito the Rasengan, since Obito had asked to learn. Naruto explained simply, the Rasengan is about rotation, the essence is rapidly spinning chakra. And then what? Obito asked, eager. Naruto didn't elaborate. He gathered chakra into his hand, formed a Rasengan, and smashed it into a large tree Yamato had made. The tree split with a thunderous crack and wood splinters flew. The Rasengan isn't a complete jutsu yet. Nature transformation can make it stronger, Naruto added, briefly describing the Rasen Shuriken, but refusing to demonstrate it. Its power damaged the body. Learning the Rasengan has 3 steps. First, practice with this water balloon. Naruto pulled out a water balloon filled with water. Then you go splat and pop and make it explode. Obito stared blankly as Naruto punctuated the words with the balloon bursting. How did you do that just now? He asked, baffled. I said splat and pop, Naruto repeated, raising his voice as if Obito hadn't heard. He produced another balloon and repeated the routine. Obito watched, dumbfounded. Could anyone really learn a jutsu this way? He briefly considered writing the method down and having Mu Yue develop it into a formal training regimen. Later, in the Konoha camp near Grass Country, Mu Yue came seeking Jiraiya. Mu Yue, what brings you here? What mission did you take? Jiraiya joked, pleased to see another powerful ninja arrive. More strength on the field made things easier. Mu Yue scanned the area before answering. Jiraiya understood and led him into a nearby tent for a private conversation. It's not a mission, Mu Yue said. It's a personal matter concerning you, Lord Jiraiya. Jiraiya frowned. What kind of private matter would make you come all the way here? A ninja from the future wants to meet you. Mu Yue said directly. Jiraiya laughed at first, thinking it a joke, but his smile faded as Mu Yue's expression remained steady. This was no jest. If a person could truly travel through time, history would unravel. Who is he? He must have a name if he wants to see me, Jiraiya asked. Uzumaki Naruto, Mu Yue replied. He's the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki of future Konoha and a disciple of future Kakashi. Uzumaki? Jinchuriki? Jiraiya repeated, narrowing his eyes. The only Uzumaki he knew in Konoha was Kushina, Minato's wife, but this Naruto might not be connected to Minato's line. Still, the Jinchuriki detail weighed heavily on Jiraiya. A Jinchuriki usually replaced a previous host only after that host's death. If Naruto had the Nine Tails, Kushina must be dead. I think he might be Minato's child, Mu Yue offered. He knows a jutsu Minato is developing, and he bears a resemblance to Minato. Naruto himself didn't know Minato was his father, so Mu Yue framed it as conjecture. Jiraiya's frown deepened. Minato's look, knowledge of a jutsu tied to Minato, and the Uzumaki name made the possibility plausible. If true, it was explosive. The war's at a critical point. I can't leave, Jiraiya said after a moment. Mu Yue didn't press. There was a way to make the meeting without abandoning the battlefield. Then let my shadow clone go with you, Jiraiya said, forming hand signs and creating a shadow clone to carry on the errand. Nightfall found Mu Yue alone with An Lushan, interrogating him quietly. Tell me the secret method to absorb the dragon vein's power, and I'll make your death easier, Mu Yue said calmly. To him, An Lushan's only value was the information he might offer. And Lushan laughed, sharp and defiant. So you want the dragon vein's power too? Ha! He had already resigned himself to a bleak fate, but now he smelled a chance to turn the tables. He didn't care how Mu Yue treated him. People like Mu Yue, who hungered for power, were predictable. Release me, and we'll kill the Queen of Lulan together. Her daughter can also wield the dragon vein's power, and she'd be easier to control. I'll give you 60% of the power, and take 40% for myself. He made the offer sound almost magnanimous. With that much more strength, you'd be unstoppable in the ninja world. You might as well be the second six-path sage. If Mu Yue accepted, An Lushan promised to teach the secret absorption technique. Of course, An Lushan wasn't entirely honest. Only half of his words were true. The technique applied by a normal body would kill the user if used to siphon that much dragon vein energy. If Mu Yue foolishly absorbed himself to death, An Lushan could simply inherit the power afterward. He'd be happy to take even a sliver. The rest would return to him once Mu Yue died. But he dared not reveal the whole deception. You still want 40%? Mu Yue smiled, amused. He thought An Lushan delusional to bargain that boldly now. Then it's 80 for you and 20 for me. No less. That's my bottom line, An Lushan replied, his voice deep. He would have accepted even 0.5%, but he feared Mu Yue might see through him. Mu Yue's smile vanished. I don't have time for games. If you won't speak, I'll use ninjutsu to search your memories myself. He said it flatly, expressionless. He had no reason to trust An Lushan. With such a prize at stake, why would Mu Yue play along? Earlier, while grinding rewards at intermediate class, Mu Yue had obtained a Yamanaka clan secret technique, but his low proficiency made him uncertain of its precision. Besides, An Lushan's current state was odd, no longer fully human, and Mu Yue couldn't be sure the technique would even work. If you can do it, then go ahead, An Lushan said without retreating. Directly extracting information from a shinobi's mind was rare. He doubted Mu Yue even knew such a technique, let alone if it would affect him. Mu Yue left behind some measures to make An Lushan uncomfortable and departed. If An Lushan talked, fine. If not, Mu Yue would wait until his spirit weakened and then invade his mind. In the following days, Mu Yue split his time much as he had in Konoha, teaching and researching. Time pressed, so he temporarily set aside the sealing technique and focused on developing yang-release breathing. With extra income from teaching and his full attention, progress came quickly. Practical cultivation suddenly seemed within reach. At that moment, Jiraiya arrived in Lulan. Mu Yue's shadow clone and Jiraiya's shadow clone slipped into Lulan, then dispelled, leaving a flying thunder god kunai on the ground. Mu Yue's main body couldn't afford to drop his research, so as soon as Naruto's request was finished, he sent a clone to find Jiraiya. No delay to his yang release work, and Naruto could see the man he longed for sooner. After his clone returned with memories, Mu Yue used the Flying Thunder God technique to appear in front of Jiraiya. "Jiraiya-sama," he greeted warmly. Jiraiya blinked in surprise. "Mu Yue, you learned Flying Thunder God?" The technique wasn't trivial. In Jiraiya's memory, it had been developed by the second Hokage and had been mastered only by Minato Namikaze. He hadn't expected Mu Yue to be the third. "Yes, I owe Minato for that. Without his guidance, I wouldn't have picked it up so quickly," Mu Yue said, smiling and nodding. After a brief exchange, Mu Yue didn't linger. He teleported to Naruto's side and brought him before Jiraiya. "Big brother Mu Yue, what?" Naruto began, about to ask why Mu Yue had been so sudden. Then he saw the man before him and fell silent. There was no mistaking the white hair, the gauges beneath the eyes, the unmistakable aura. That was Ero Sennin. Yet he looked different. Instead of his familiar red coat, he wore gray plate armor, and his face bore no wrinkles. Naruto's emotions roiled, familiarity and strangeness at once. This Jiraiya was younger, a traveler out of the right time and place. Naruto forced himself to control his expression, to keep his eyes from reddening or wetting. This younger Jiraiya didn't know him. If he gave in to emotion, he might frighten the other man. "You're Uzumaki Naruto? How rude. Either call me Jiraiya-sama or Toad Sage," Jiraiya said, eyeing him carefully. He glanced between Naruto and Mu Yue, and Mu Yue's earlier hints clicked into place. The resemblance to Minato, the nine tails within him, the Uzumaki name, pieces fell into place in Jiraiya's mind. A flash of incredulity escaped Naruto. "But aren't you Ero Sennin?" he asked indignantly, wiping at his eyes. "Bah, I'm not arguing with a brat," Jiraiya said, already turning toward Lulan's main street. Naruto's eyes flickered. He clenched his fists. "I'm a ninja from the future," he blurted out, hurrying to keep up. "So?" Jiraiya's gaze swept the street, then paused appreciatively at the local beauty vendors. "What exactly do you want?" "Don't you want to ask me about the future? About yourself?" Naruto asked desperately. He remembered Obito and the others, who had gone straight to the archives and pored over history when they learned someone was from the future. "No." Jiraiya's answer was blunt. "If I knew everything about my future, life would be less fun." He wasn't interested in knowing his own fate. Besides, if you tell me the future, aren't you afraid of changing history? You might disappear. As long as history moves toward something good, what's the harm in it changing? Even if I'm not in that better future, I'd be happy, Naruto said earnestly, meeting Jiraiya's eyes. If Mu Yue, the fourth Hokage, Obito and Jiraiya all survived in some altered timeline, Naruto felt any sacrifice would be worth it. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. "Who do you think you are, acting so noble? Nobody needs you to sacrifice yourself. Nobody needs you to be their savior." Naruto bristled. "Don't underestimate me. I've done countless missions and beaten so many foes." At first, his Jiraiya had seemed oddly young, almost unfamiliar. But as they spoke, Naruto felt the old pattern reassert, the same lecherous jokes, the same stubborn pride. He smiled inwardly. This was the Ero Sennin he knew. Jiraiya cocked his head and laughed. "You don't even have a chuunin vest. You're still a genin, aren't you?" Naruto's face fell. He had no retort. He really was still a genin. Jiraiya laughed heartily. It was rare to find someone his age still rankless. Naruto's expression hardened, then brightened as an idea struck him. "Rank doesn't matter. I can show you a very powerful ninjutsu. It's amazing. Immense power," he said, pulling Jiraiya aside. "Rasengan!" He gathered chakra in his palm and formed the rapidly spinning ball. With a bang, he slammed it into the ground and carved a pit in the stone. He stood there, hands on his hips, triumphant. "Told you it's strong." Naruto had imagined Jiraiya learning Rasengan from him and returning the favor. He wanted to repay his mentor's teachings in kind. "I'll teach you for 150,000 Ryo and 10 ramen dinners," he bargained. Jiraiya watched the technique and nodded. "The power's impressive," he admitted, "but I don't want to learn it." Naruto's jaw dropped. "Why not?" "Because you look too arrogant," Jiraiya said dryly, stroking his chin. He wasn't serious. What held him back was the same thing as before. He didn't want to tinker with history. He'd come simply to fulfill Naruto's wish to meet him and to see a connection to Minato, not to take lessons from a time-traveling boy. Naruto scrambled to lower his terms. "Okay, forget the money. Just one ramen meal. Teach me for that." "Ramen isn't cheap," Jiraiya replied, scanning the street. Then his eyes lit on an ice cream vendor. Never mind ramen. Treat me to an ice cream. At the stall, the vendor handed Jiraiya 2 connected cones. Naruto reluctantly paid the vendor. If Jiraiya wouldn't eat ramen, at least he might remember Naruto's request to learn Rasengan later. Jiraiya split the 2 pops apart and handed one to Naruto. "This one's on me," he said with a crooked smile. "What on you? I paid for it." Naruto protested, but took it and bit in gratefully. For a simple ice pop, the taste seemed exquisite. It reminded him of Mu Yue's cooking and how much comfort it gave. After a few bites, Jiraiya spoke quietly. "Whatever comes, face it bravely. Don't give up or run away. If you hold to your dream, you'll have a chance to make it real." He couldn't have known all Naruto had endured, but he sensed the boy's loneliness and the way he clung to hope. "Thanks for the ice cream. As for teaching, we should stop. The clone's chakra is nearly gone." Mu Yue's shadow clone, worn by the time-traveled memories, was draining away. Naruto moved to warn Jiraiya not to gather intelligence, but Jiraiya anticipated him. He covered Naruto's mouth gently. Naruto dared not struggle. He feared that any force might shatter the illusion and send Jiraiya away. Jiraiya finished his ice pop, patted Naruto's head, and chuckled. "If I ever take a disciple again, I'll train him to be as good as you." Then he dispelled the shadow clone. "Jiraiya." Naruto reached out, but only grasped the falling ice pop stick. He stared at the empty air where Jiraiya had just stood. The stick was still cool in his hand. Without it, he might have convinced himself it had been a dream. Tears blurred his vision. He had wanted, more than anything, for Jiraiya to live. The younger man's brief kindness left Naruto unable to hold his emotions back. Chapter 390, Unexpected Effects of Dragon Vein Energy. Naruto stood frozen in the street of Lulan, slow to react, then wandered aimlessly. He wished Jiraiya had been playing a joke, that he hadn't actually left but was hiding nearby with some jutsu. Why would he do that? Wouldn't it have been better to just know the future? Naruto muttered to himself, feeling lost. He thought changing Jiraiya's fate would be simple. He knew the cause, the chain of events, even the time of his death in battle. All Jiraiya had to do was not go investigate that intelligence. "Want some ramen?" Mu Yue appeared beside him as if summoned. "Eat," Naruto answered automatically, staring at him. Mu Yue led him back to their rented house. The moment Naruto stepped inside, a rich aroma hit him. 2 steaming bowls of ramen were already on the table. Drawn by the smell, Naruto moved closer and saw it was exactly his favorite, pork miso chashu ramen. "I wasn't sure if the ramen here in Lulan would taste like Ichiraku's, so I made it myself," Mu Yue said, sitting beside him. Seeing Mu Yue's gentle smile warmed Naruto like sunlight. He thanked him, said itadakimasu, and lifted his chopsticks. The first bite was heavenly. Naruto felt like he was sunbathing on a fresh beach, heat spread through him. A few more bites, a sip of broth, the warmth intensified. Normally he would have burst into praise for Mu Yue's cooking, but the thought that Jiraiya might still die dulled the joy. "Brother Mu Yue, Erosenin is weird, right?" Naruto blurted between mouthfuls. "He brags about his reputation but can't kick his perverted habits. When he teaches me ninjutsu, he makes me practice alone, then disappears to play. He knows it's dangerous but insists on investigating things by himself. He even treats me to popsicles I paid for." Naruto poured out complaints like a litany of grievances, but as his voice wavered and his eyes grew moist, the bitterness revealed how much he cared. Mu Yue sighed, put a hand on Naruto's head, and stroked it twice without a word. Reality was cruel. Even if Naruto told Jiraiya everything, and this world's Jiraiya survived, it wouldn't resurrect the Jiraiya from Naruto's original world. They weren't in different times, but in different worlds. Still, after he'd vented, Naruto felt lighter, and the ramen regained all its flavor. "This is the best ramen I've ever eaten. Better than Ichiraku," he said when he finished, savoring the aftertaste. He loved Ichiraku, but Mu Yue's ramen hit a peak he didn't expect. "As long as you like it," Mu Yue replied with a smile. Naruto's thoughts, however, drifted to Yamato's earlier guess about Mu Yue. Why couldn't people like Jiraiya and Mu Yue live to the end? It felt terribly unfair. "Brother Mu Yue, if we go back, can we come back again?" Naruto asked. He wasn't clear on how the Dragon Vein's time and world travel worked, but he wanted another chance, maybe to return to the past of their world, warn Kakashi, prevent those deaths, and save Mu Yue and the others. "It's possible, but it'll be hard." Mu Yue said after a moment. He hadn't fully figured out the Dragon Vein's mechanism either. Triggering it again might just send them to another parallel world, or it might send them back in their own timeline. Naruto's expression hardened. If there was any chance, he would try. "Let's continue our lesson," Naruto said. He still had responsibilities back home, the Akatsuki Sasuke, and he needed greater strength. Mu Yue smiled and led him back to training. Though Naruto's destiny made him the savior of the ninja world, mastering yang-release breathing would make the journey less painful. Naruto didn't tell Yamato about meeting Jiraiya, but Yamato noticed he seemed different after returning. He didn't press Naruto for details and kept training. He had already suspected what might happen when Naruto mentioned wanting to see Jiraiya, but he couldn't stop him. Who could have? If Naruto had a chance like that, not taking it wasn't his style. During the break, Yamato tried to think up jokes to cheer Naruto. Too innately, his face wasn't made for telling jokes. Even the funniest line from him ended up flat. "Does wood release affect the humor cells?" Obito wondered. "No," Kakashi said. "He's just bad at jokes." "Don't say that, Captain Yamato." Naruto stepped forward to defend him, then added, deadpan, "He's just a bit dull, that's all." Yamato covered his face. "Oh no, I made myself the joke," he groaned. His embarrassed, stammering defense, something about appearance and Anbu, had everyone laughing, and for a moment the mood lightened. Seeing Naruto smile made Yamato feel it was worth the embarrassment. Training resumed. The most important thing for water release is chakra nature transformation. Don't be limited to a single form, Mu Yue told Yamato. Use water formation wall. Yamato nodded, formed hand signs, gathered chakra, and transformed it to water release chakra, shaping a wall of water from the ground to block an attack. A wall like that only blocks one direction, Mu Yue said. If you do it like this, you can defend from all sides. Mu Yue showed them. Water release, water formation wall. He spat a massive stream of water that spun and rose into an impenetrable dome, enclosing him and Yamato. Yamato tried to copy the procedure but failed. His nature transformation wasn't strong enough. Mu Yue wasn't surprised. This wasn't something learned instantly. It required practice and talent. Ninjutsu wasn't like Play-Doh. Some things couldn't be molded at will. It wasn't a matter of preference. Yamato simply didn't have that capacity yet. Try using water breathing while performing water release, Mu Yue suggested. Yamato had only been training water breathing a short time. His proficiency had just surpassed the 10-point mark, so he could barely use it. He tried the water formation wall again under Mu Yue's instructions. Still no perfect result, but it felt different. Progress came. Evaluation. Reward. Yang Release Chakra Nature Transformation +8, Yang Release Breathing +3, Water Release Chakra Nature Transformation +2, Water Breathing +1, Chakra Nature Transformation ability slightly increased. Mu Yue had more thoughts about Yang Release Breathing after the day's lesson. Maybe Naruto's hidden potential had surged. Today's gains were more than usual. Usually, Yang Release Breathing yielded a steady 2 points and little else. As the breathing method developed towards something cultivable, Anlushan couldn't stand Mu Yue's pressure any longer and finally revealed his secret method for absorbing Dragon Vein energy. "All the Dragon Vein power is yours. Just let me go," Anlushan begged. Mu Yue read the method Anlushan had written. "I was too kind to you," he murmured, then stepped out of Anlushan's confinement and intensified the interrogation. Mu Yue wasn't sure if Anlushan's notes were authentic. This wasn't his area of expertise, but he'd grown suspicious. With someone like Anlushan, Mu Yue wouldn't tolerate mercy. Even if he was wrong to suspect him, he wouldn't feel guilty. Anlushan, not yet a rogue ninja, was bewildered. Mu Yue's coldness made him doubt the man's stability. After leaving the detention area, Mu Yue visited Lulan's queen. Because he'd helped Lulan with a major crisis, she agreed to let him study her ability to control the Dragon Vein. This time, though, she would only allow a tiny portion of Dragon Vein power to be transferred for research. If Mu Yue hadn't already known about the Dragon Vein, she might never have consented. She feared he might become another Anlushan. With the Queen's cooperation, Mu Yue's study progressed more smoothly. Solving the chakra problem still needs more reward brushing and developing the Yang seal. Mu Yue muttered to himself as he dug deeper. He realized dragon vein energy couldn't simply be stuffed into a body like a tailed beast's power bank. It was too dangerous. But he found another application: strengthening chakra armor. After sealing some dragon vein energy into the chakra armor from Snow Country, the armor's amplification of ninjutsu power jumped significantly. There were limits. If someone unleashed a perfect-level nature transformation fire release, the armor's boost became negligible, but it was still a useful discovery. Mu Yue couldn't use it himself yet, but he could supply it to Kakashi and the others. "Brother Mu Yue, I think I can feel the difference you mentioned," Naruto said happily on the first official day of Yang release breathing practice at midday. Mu Yue used his appraisal technique. No. Naruto's progress was fast. Maybe because he'd studied the theory, or simply because of his talent. In just a few hours, his proficiency rose. He used the shadow clone method and split into more than 20 clones to practice together. After training, he dispelled them to consolidate the memories. Mu Yue's appraisal showed Naruto's breathing technique proficiency leapt to 6 points. 20 clones didn't equal 20 times the efficiency, but the gains were still exaggerated. Mu Yue expected as much. In the original timeline, Naruto didn't take long to go from 0 to an S-rank wind release. He truly had a cheat compared to ordinary shinobi. By the second day of training, Naruto's Yang release breathing proficiency had already surpassed Yamato's water breathing, and he could use the breathing technique to boost his strength in combat. In the afternoon around 4, Mu Yue stopped formal lessons and put Naruto and Kakashi through a sparring session. Kakashi, Obito, and Rin were fired up. Since their first fight, everyone had improved, and while they couldn't promise to beat Naruto, they wouldn't be steamrolled. Naruto was eager. Mu Yue had given him pointers on Taijutsu, along with the breathing technique, and this was a chance to test it. This time, Naruto didn't rely on a swarm of clones. He faced the 3 of them head-on first. In the past month, Obito's flame-breathing chakra mode had improved a lot. He could clap his hands like Mu Yue and channel ninjutsu freely. In battle, Obito turned into a living fire turret, unleashing powerful fire techniques that gave Naruto trouble. Kakashi's speed had increased, and his lightning attacks were formidable. Naruto had to send out many clones to distract him. Rin's monstrous strength reminded Naruto of Sakura. Yamato, watching from the side, nodded with approval. Everyone had made visible progress. He glanced at Mu Yue and felt admiration for his teaching. Yamato's gaze then landed on a man standing beside Mu Yue who looked very familiar. 2 men, Minato Namikaze and Mu Yue, stood nearby. Minato turned and smiled at Yamato. Once Yamato saw Minato's face, he realized it was the 4th Hokage. Mu Yue wore black-framed glasses. Minato did not. Even with that small difference, the resemblance was striking. Yamato suddenly understood how Obito felt. These 2 could be mistaken for brothers. "Shall I stop them?" Mu Yue asked. "No need, the match is almost over," Minato replied with a gentle smile. Obito's flame-breathing and Kakashi's momentary transparency were powerful but unsustainable. Naruto, on the other hand, had plenty of chakra as long as he didn't use Rasen Shuriken, something he wouldn't do in training. Obito admitted defeat with wholehearted sincerity. Kakashi, breathing hard, thought they still had some way to go before reaching that level. Naruto just chuckled, scratching his head. "After all, I'm older than you guys," he said lightly. After a friendly cool-down discussion, Naruto looked toward Mu Yue for his evaluation and saw Minato Namikaze smiling beside him. "No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter." "No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter." Mu Yue didn't draw a prize right away. He washed, burned incense with a sense of ritual, then clicked to draw. Ninjutsu drawing scroll, S consumed, gained skill, transformation, mastery level. Seeing the name left him stunned. Fortunately, it didn't end with jutsu. That would have blown his mind. An S-rank scroll granting transformation was enormous, far beyond the usual. As the drawing completed, a flood of memories and technical data about the transformation skill poured into his head. Only then did Mu Yue understand its origin. Transformation was a localized ninjutsu from the Pokemon world. Mention transformation alone, and many people might draw a blank, but mention Ditto or Mew, and anyone who'd watched Pokemon would remember the idea. This transformation was not the same as Naruto's transformation technique. It allowed the user to copy and use the abilities of the transformed object, albeit with limits. The scroll delivered a massive information. With his appraisal technique background, Mu Yue could immediately appreciate it. Transformation was impressively versatile. Its activation came in 2 stages. First, it scanned and recorded the physical and chakra information of the target. If Mu Yue taught transformation to Jiraiya, assuming Jiraiya could learn it, it could create an intelligence Jiraiya. The second stage copied that recorded information into the caster. Once copied, the caster entered the transformed state and could use the copied abilities. Mu Yue admitted this was the most complex ninjutsu he'd ever seen. Trying to grasp its essence with his current knowledge felt like an elementary school student trying to read a graduate textbook. It reminded him in some ways of the Mangekyo Sharingan, powerful effects that were hard to comprehend. That said, the draw hadn't been exactly what he wanted. Mu Yue had hoped for clone-related skills to help him arrange protection and guardianship of his disciples. Shadow Clone was serviceable, but it couldn't independently refine chakra, couldn't persist long, and generally vanished after a single hit. Still, since transformation was drawn, he resolved not to complain and to develop it instead of wishing for a different scroll. Beyond the system reward, his trip to Roran had yielded another big gain, substantial advancement in yang release breathing. Uzumaki Naruto's unique traits had allowed Mu Yue to receive a large amount of yang release breathing benefits, accelerating his development. It wasn't a complete success yet. Right now, it was only a single breath and couldn't do the yang fire or yang lightning fusions he envisioned. But it was a major step. If his hypothesis held, yang release breathing might one day solve the Mangekyo blindness issue for Obito and Shisui by strengthening physical energy in a way similar to Hashirama cells. Still, he wouldn't try to teach it to others now. It was too hard to learn, and early stages didn't boost combat power much. Besides, neither Obito nor Shisui were close to the Mangekyo yet. Because transformation had a range limit, Mu Yue left his house and wandered the street, scanning and recording random ninja. He tested it. The scanning range topped out at about 15 meters. Beyond that, it failed. Transformation, water release, water dragon bullet technique. Talented ninja were rare. He scanned several, all chuunin or genin, nothing new. Back home, he took off his black-rimmed glasses and used transformation on himself. In the mirror, his body flickered and instantly became the unfamiliar chuunin he'd scanned. He inspected carefully. Every detail was flawless. It was a 100% replication. Even his Byakugan couldn't see through it. He tried using ninjutsu and found his chakra signature had changed. Chakra was more unique than appearance. In a world of sensory ninja, sensing chakra trumped looks. In the Naruto world, Mu Yue recalled, only White Zetsu's impersonation could mimic chakra, and even that required absorption. He only needed a glance, more advanced. He wondered whether the Rinnegan could see through transformation. If not, recruiting Nagato as a disciple would be simpler. As Hayate Mugetsu, Mu Yue figured it would be hard to get close to Nagato. Nagato might distrust a Konoha ninja and Madara or Obito might have info on him. But if he approached Nagato under a different identity, someone born in the land of rain, or an ancient sect descendant returning as a patriot, it would be easier. He quickly wrote down a few cover story ideas. In the current world, Nagato was the best candidate for his 5th disciple slot, not for pure potential, but because Nagato could bring huge chakra advantages, compensating for Mu Yue's weaknesses. He continued testing. Substitution technique, fire release, great fireball technique, 3 Tomoe Sharingan, fire release, Phoenix Sage fire technique. Scanning an Uchiha Jonin shocked him. Transformation could record a bloodline limit. Mu Yue quietly returned home and transformed into that Uchiha to test. The chakra cost was higher than the chuunins. If the Sharingan could be copied, then other bloodline limits should be too. In the mirror, he saw blood-red eyes and felt the world change. His dynamic vision sharpened. He truly had a pair of 3 Tomoe Sharingan. Transformation climbed a notch in his estimation. Among S-rank scrolls, it might be one of the best. There were limits. The copied Sharingan faded after 20 minutes. He had to cancel the transformation and reapply to restore it. He then visited Tsunade for lunch and to discuss ninjutsu compatible with the Yang Seal. Tsunade, bored with his old practice dummies, urged him to make new characters for her to spar as she played. Mu Yue planned to have a shadow clone design new characters with skill descriptions like short essays for her. Before leaving, he scanned Tsunade. Her information density far outstripped ordinary ninja, more data in her than in all the others combined. He surrounded himself with a warning ceiling barrier, then transformed into Tsunade. He didn't want to be seen like a pervert. The chakra cost stunned him. Transforming into Tsunade consumed 15,000 chakra points. In Tsunade's form, the yin seal he'd been unable to cultivate earlier suddenly responded, and many advanced medical ninjutsu appeared on his status screen. Using Tsunade's chakra restoration felt incredibly fast, like moving from 3G to 5G. He also copied Kushina, but couldn't become a chakra monster. Transformation couldn't increase his chakra limit or copy the 9 tails sealed within Kushina. It only copied her sealing techniques. From all these tests, he refined transformation's rules. It could not increase the user's chakra sealing or physical strength, though special physiques like Senju might speed chakra recovery. Bloodline limits, secret techniques, and ninjutsu could be copied, but copying higher-rank, information-rich targets consumed more chakra. After transforming, the user had 2 sets of skills, their own and the transformed one. Using the transformed skills consumed the recorded information. Once exhausted, those skills couldn't be used until the transformation was cancelled and reapplied. If both knew the same skill, whichever had higher proficiency determined which version applied. If the scanned skill proficiency exceeded Mu Yue's transformation proficiency, he could only copy up to his own transformation proficiency. He also hit storage limits and had to delete many profiles, keeping only Tsunade, Kushina, and the 3 heads of Ino Shikacho. He learned one practical tip: take off the black-rimmed glasses when transforming, otherwise it looked like his head had been photoshopped onto another body. "Shisui, come here. I have something to tell you," Obito whispered as their afternoon training wound down. He, Kakashi, and Rin had discussed and decided they needed to bring Shisui into their plan. Changing the future required power, and Shisui, one of Mu Yue's disciples and a genius, was essential. Shisui followed them, confused. Obito's face was grave. The Uchiha clan is going to be annihilated in the future. Why? Shisui asked, stunned. Knew his clan had problems, but total annihilation? The Uchiha were Konoha's premier clan with deep roots. This isn't speculation. It's highly likely if we don't interfere, Obito explained hurriedly. On our last mission to the Land of Rain, we met 2 ninja from the future. Time-traveling ninja? Shisui's eyes widened. If Obito were joking, his serious expression didn't show it. One of them was Kakashi's disciple, the other his junior. They didn't know teacher Mu Yue at all, nor me or Rin. Obito's voice dropped. The idea gave him goosebumps. Don't know teacher Mu Yue. Shisui's Sharingan flickered. That detail gnawed at him. Even if the future ninjas were from a different timeline, everyone in Kakashi's generation had at least heard of Mu Yue. If they hadn't, something was off. Based on what they told us, teacher Mu Yue is likely to sacrifice himself during the Third Shinobi World War if we don't do anything. Obito said the words that made Shisui freeze. Impossible, Shisui protested. Mu Yue was strong. How could he die? I thought the same. But the time travelers were real. We confirmed it several times. Obito sighed. Shisui's mind filled with memories of Mu Yue, how he'd learned to forge tools just to give Shisui a birthday present, how he always guided and comforted him. No one could accept the thought of losing him. We can't let that happen. Shisui's resolve hardened, and his tomoe spun to 3. There's little about Mu Yue's death, but the annihilation of the Uchiha is clear. In the future, the clan was wiped out by Uchiha Itachi. He awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, and did it. Obito recounted grimly. Itachi? Shisui felt he'd heard the name. Obito, annoyed, described the future Itachi as a thoroughly monstrous person, killing even the elderly, women, and children, leaving only himself and his younger brother Sasuke alive. Shisui remembered seeing a baby once in the clan courtyard, Fugaku holding a child named Itachi. Are you sure it was Itachi? Shisui asked, picturing that little face. Yes, I confirmed the name several times. Obito scratched his head, perplexed. He can't still be a baby, can he? They decided to investigate immediately. Shisui wouldn't let Obito go alone. Obito's reputation after the chuunin exams made it easy. Fugaku would welcome them. They bought candies and snacks as an excuse to visit. "Uncle Fugaku, good evening," Shisui greeted politely. "Lord Clan Head," Obito added. Fugaku welcomed them in. On the veranda sat a small, distant-looking child, Itachi. Fugaku called him over. "Itachi, meet two excellent seniors of the clan." Itachi approached, greeted them obediently in halting speech, and Shisui and Obito returned the greeting. Shisui nudged Obito when he stared too openly. Obito was behaving like a kid with a new toy. Fugaku, seeing their interest, left the three space to talk, and then excused himself. If Itachi really was as talented as his father hinted, the Uchiha's revival might rest on the shoulders of these youngsters. As Fugaku left, Obito's eyes lit up. He'd been waiting for a chance to speak to Itachi alone. 394. Obito, born evil? If an old woman slowly walked past you and slowed you down, would you want to hit her? Obito asked Uchiha Itachi. Itachi blinked, puzzled. Why? Why would I hit an old woman? Obito scratched his head. Of course a normal kid wouldn't hit her, but Itachi was the one who in future rumors would wipe out his clan. If he could do that, snatching a lollipop from a grandma should be child's play, right? He decided to give Itachi choices so the question wouldn't be answered with another question. You meet a slow old woman in the street. You have three options. A. Help her cross. B. Ignore her and go on your way. C. Grab the lollipop from her hand. And you have to choose one, Obito added. No answering with another question. Shisui watched Itachi, curious. The question was childish, but Itachi was still young and probably uncomplicated. A small test, at least. Itachi stared blankly at Obito. After a couple of minutes, he said, I choose B. I'll keep my distance and go my own way. Obito made an as-expected face. At a glance, he could tell this child wasn't one to show much sympathy. He's naturally wicked, Obito thought. At that rate, he'll be snatching lollipops in a few years. Shisui, though, wanted to know the reasoning. Itachi, why B? Itachi tends to fall when he walks, Itachi answered frankly. If I go too close to her, I might make her fall with me. Shisui looked surprised. The boy's speech was soft, but his thinking was unusually clear. Obito's expression froze. Shisui's thoughtful look showed he recognized something deeper. Obito leaned in like a bad influence and whispered, Why not just snatch the lollipop? She walks so slowly she couldn't catch you. How could I take someone's things, Obito-ni? Taking other people's things is very bad, Itachi said solemnly. Obito felt awkward. He had meant to probe. Instead, Itachi's answer made him look like the one with bad ideas. Shisui stepped in to diffuse the mood. Want to hear a story? He asked. Itachi turned to him and nodded. Shisui launched into a straightforward, inspirational tale. A ninja with a tragic childhood who, through optimism and effort, changed his surroundings and ultimately made his village and the world better. It was the kind of cliché positive story meant to encourage. By the time it finished, Uchiha Fugaku had returned to the living room. Seeing the pleasant scene, he smiled. It looks like you two are getting along. Shisui smiled faintly and complimented Itachi. Obito followed with a puffed-up remark. Fugaku beamed. Thank you both for your time today, Shisui said, preparing to leave. Itachi was still young and Fugaku was attentive. Better not to stay too long. No trouble at all, Fugaku replied. If you have anything in the future, come to me like today. He glanced at Itachi. The big brothers are leaving, Itachi. Anything you want to say? Itachi looked at Obito and answered in his quiet way. Obito-ni, bullying old ladies is bad. Fugaku turned to Obito, surprised. Obito seethed inwardly. He was the model Konoha kid who helped grannies cross the street. I was just giving a hypothetical, Obito said aloud. Itachi nodded with an O. Obito forced a magnanimous smile and followed Shisui out. Once they were a little way down the street, Obito burst out. This Itachi is not simple. For him to think like that at such a young age, maybe he used a lot of tricks during the clan massacre. Shisui shook his head. We shouldn't judge the present Itachi by what he allegedly becomes in the future. The future crime, regardless of the reason, is unforgivable, but that is the future Itachi. The current Itachi is a child. His words are still halting and don't necessarily reveal malice. Obito scratched his head. That sounds reasonable. But can we just stand by? Shouldn't we do something? Of course we should intervene, Shisui said. but by guiding him toward the right path. As seniors, we can help him grow into a ninja who loves his clan and village, who feels responsibility. Obito mulled that over. It might be worth trying to steer the boy. Tsunade's courtyard. Mu Yue and Tsunade sat on stone benches, while Shizune and Rin Nohara stood respectfully before them. 6 months earlier, Mu Yue and Tsunade had agreed to exchange disciples for half a year. Rin still went out on missions sometimes, but she had spent most of the time studying medical ninjutsu under Tsunade's tutelage. Today was the test. "Rin, show us what you've learned," Tsunade said confidently, folding her arms. Rin had a natural gift for medical ninjutsu and had studied tirelessly. After 6 months, Tsunade had high expectations. From what Rin showed now, she could probably be promoted to special Chuunin for medical skill. Full Chuunin rank might still be a stretch because Rin lacked enough combat experience. "Okay, Lady Tsunade," Rin answered and walked to the stone table, picking up a bloody fish. Mystical palm technique. She gathered chakra into her palm, applied yang release nature transformation, and a rich green light spread from her hand, enveloping the fish. The wounds healed rapidly until there wasn't even a scar. The fish, fully recovered, writhed in her hand. Mu Yue nodded. That fish had been moments from death. If Rin had been slower, it would have perished. Rin took a purple pill from the table and placed it in the fish's mouth. The fish's struggles slowed, and strange purple patterns appeared on its skin. "Detoxification is a required part of medical training," Tsunade explained. "If you don't remove poison first, any treatment is pointless." She'd earned her reputation not only by healing quickly, but by being the strongest detoxifier in the ninja world, a particularly vexing match for the poison-loving hidden sand. "Delicate illness extraction technique," Rin announced. She held the fish tightly, traced the toxin with her technique, then strengthened her hand with chakra. Chakra scalpel. Her palm became razor-sharp with chakra. She made a precise incision, extracted the toxin, and treated the fish. She could also prepare antidotes, though that took longer and wasn't suitable for demonstration. Rin finished with basics like hemostasis and recovery, showing a solid foundation. She took 2 steady breaths and looked to Mu Yue for approval. Her chakra scalpel had only been mastered a few days prior. This was the fruit of desperate study. "Very good," Mu Yue praised without reservation. Even some Chuunin with medical training couldn't do better. Rin's tension melted into a joyful smile. She greatly respected Tsunade, but Mu Yue's approval meant a lot to her. "Thank you for your trouble, Lady Tsunade," Mu Yue said with a smile. Tsunade, ever blunt, immediately replied, "Then make more delicious food to reward me." She listed several favorite dishes without subtlety. Mu Yue accepted easily. Cooking for her was no burden. "Lady Tsunade, you know Shizune's previous level best. You should test her," Mu Yue suggested. It was hard for one person to judge another's progress. A match was the best gauge. Tsunade formed a seal and created a shadow clone to spar with Shizune. "Shizune, attack with everything you have. No holding back," the clone said casually. Shizune nodded and entered total concentration breathing to enhance her abilities. "Lady Tsunade, look out!" She warned, then burst forward with chakra, using Soru to move like a blur. She couldn't truly outmatch Tsunade's clone, but proper force was still necessary. Her right foot, charged with chakra, slammed toward the clone, but the shadow clone sidestepped at incredible speed. Shizune's kick smashed into the ground and shattered it. Tsunade's real body watched, surprised. Shizune's speed and attack sharpness suggested a Taijutsu practitioner, and 6 months ago, her Taijutsu hadn't stood out among genin. Shizune didn't falter after the missed strike. She organized a second wave and, with her chakra scalpel trained strikes, even cut down a tree in the courtyard. Unlike Rin, who had come to Tsunade to study medicine, Shizune had lived with Tsunade and absorbed much of her knowledge. Mu Yue's coaching in monstrous strength and chakra scalpel fit Shizune well. For the first 2 minutes, Tsunade's clone only dodged, letting Shizune show offense. Then the clone revealed some strength and reversed the situation. Though beaten back, Shizune defended staunchly and looked for openings. Still, against the sheer gap in power, she eventually fell to Tsunade's handblade. "Shizune, were you slacking when you trained with me?" Tsunade asked after canceling the clone. "Of course not. I was serious with my training, Lady Tsunade," Shizune protested, brushing off dust. Tsunade laughed. I'm only teasing. Tsunade turned to Mu Yue. You're an excellent teacher. Let Shizune train with you another year and try to make her able to one-punch a chuunin. Shizune's progress had even exceeded Tsunade's expectations. Monstrous strength, chakra scalpel, and big leaps in Taijutsu. Another year is fine, Mu Yue replied, but I can't promise she'll one-punch a chuunin in that time. Please don't make it hard for teacher Mu Yue, Shizune pleaded. One-punching a chuunin was a tall order. Even Tsunade herself might not manage it against dozens at once. You've already taken his side after only half a year, Tsunade teased, pinching Shizune's cheek. Shizune tried to explain, but Tsunade's pinch silenced her. Mu Yue then checked Asuma's training and offered guidance. When he finished, he used the excuse of needing to consult Hiruzen Sarutobi about ninjutsu to visit Hiruzen's home. In truth, he wanted two things: to make it known he'd mastered Flying Thunder God, and strengthen his reputation as a prodigy, and to use a transformation to copy Hiruzen's panel for his own records. Chapter 395, Rain Country. Hanzo Mue, it seems I've troubled you again today. Hiruzen Sarutobi took his pipe out and smiled when he saw Mu Yue walking with Asuma. Mu Yue had started as a tutor Hiruzen had hired, but over time his schedule had become sporadic and his relationship with Asuma had deepened into something like master and student. How is guiding a student trouble? Mu Yue answered with a gentle smile. Third Hokage, do you have a moment? I've run into some problems with my Earth release training and would like your guidance. Right now is fine, Hiruzen nodded. He left Asuma behind, not only to avoid the appearance of favoritism, but because Mu Yue's questions were likely to be challenging. Of all the chakra natures Mu Yue had mastered, Earth release was one of the weaker ones, and this time he asked not about familiar material, but about genuine difficulties. Hiruzen showed the depth everyone expected of a ninjutsu professor. He answered quickly, explained thoroughly, and even demonstrated possible directions for progress. Mu Yue, how's your Flying Thunder God technique coming? If it's giving you trouble, I can help you switch to another ninjutsu. Hiruzen remembered that it had been 6 months since he'd given Mu Yue the technique. If Mu Yue couldn't pick it up in that time, he might never learn it. Hiruzen didn't think less of him for that. Even he had never mastered the Flying Thunder God technique. I've mostly learned it, though not to Minato's level, Mu Yue admitted. Since Hiruzen had asked directly, there was no need to steer the conversation. Hiruzen's eyes widened for a moment, then he composed himself. I may have underestimated your talent, Mu Yue. Minato has had many more years of training. There's no need to compare yourself to him. He stroked his goatee and smiled. Mu Yue drew 2 kunai from his pouch, both already marked with the Flying Thunder God seal. He tossed one a few meters ahead and stuck the other in the ground at his feet. As the kunai flew, he activated the technique and his body vanished, only to reappear at the kunai's destination. After a brief pause, he used the technique again to return to his original spot. Watching Mu Yue move with ease, Hiruzen's eyes gleamed. This isn't mostly learned, you've picked it up remarkably well, he praised, blowing a cloud of smoke. For someone who couldn't use the Flying Thunder God himself, Hiruzen had a keen eye for judging its mastery. Mu Yue's level was far beyond a beginner. He was already practiced, if not as polished as Minato. Mu Yue smiled modestly. He'd spent a lot of proficiency scrolls. Of course it had gone smoothly. After they finished, they chatted briefly about the Ninja Academy and Asuma's training, then Mu Yue left. He's even mastered the Flying Thunder God. Hiruzen watched Mu Yue's retreating back and exhaled several puffs of smoke. He wished Mu Yue could split into 2 people, one an unparalleled educator, the other a genius ninja to fight at the front. Konoha was holding its own in small skirmishes now, but Hiruzen knew the situation was precarious. The village lacked anyone on the level of Hashirama or Madara to decisively suppress another great power. Without such figures, Konoha could not risk going all out against the other major villages. Doing so would invite counterattacks elsewhere. For now, they could only defend, keep enemies at bay, and wait for opportunities. Before leaving, Mu Yue used his transformation technique to scan Hiruzen's information. Hiruzen's roster of jutsu and secret techniques was enormous, perhaps the largest number Mu Yue had encountered. The combined abilities of Kushina and Tsunade were about equal to Hiruzen's alone. No wonder transforming into him required so much chakra. Back in Konoha, after some ordinary training with his students, Mu Yue accepted a B-rank escort mission to the Land of Rain. This time his team included Obito, Kakashi, Rin Nohara, and Shisui. Shisui had graduated and become a genin while Mu Yue was on a mission in Rurin. Because of Shisui's outstanding performance, he'd contributed a ninjutsu mastery scroll to Mu Yue, and Mu Yue had kept him close. Instead of being placed in a standard 3-person genin squad, Shisui followed Mu Yue on missions like Tsunade's own protege. Anko and Kotetsu Hagane had chosen to delay graduation and continue at the academy. Mu Yue had recommended it. These were unstable times. Unless necessary, it was better not to graduate early when the academy's schedule had already been shortened. With Shisui attached, Mu Yue's team had 1 jonin, 3 chuunin, and 1 genin, fully in line with Konoha's B-rank mission rules. Shisui, it's your first B-rank, right? Don't be nervous. With me around, nothing will go wrong, Obito announced, trying to sound like an elder brother. Although Shisui had repeatedly beaten him in training, Obito was 2 years older and taller. He felt he ought to take responsibility. You're going to look after Shisui? Really? Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Kakashi had seen enough of Shisui to know he was the one peer who made him feel small in terms of raw talent. Obito might be stronger in power for now, but Shisui had other qualities. What's the problem? Haven't I done plenty of B ranks? Obito protested. Nothing, just that it's a little scary when someone has no self-awareness, Kakashi replied dryly. You're the one lacking self-awareness, Kakashi, Obito shot back, riled. Rin smiled at the exchange. It was the usual banter from their squad. Shisui nodded calmly. He was used to it. I'm new to missions, so please guide me, Shisui said politely, stepping forward to end the spat. Obito slung an arm around him and grinned, imagining an Uchiha duo to deal with Kakashi. Check everything one more time. If all's clear, we'll find the client, Mu Yue said. He had selected this mission carefully. The Land of Rain had once again become a crossroads of conflict between the great nations. No open war like the Second Shinobi World War, but domestic chaos had returned. As a small country with few powerful ninja, the Rain Village was suitable for Kakashi and the others. It would be a manageable mission. Mu Yue also planned to visit Nagato while there. He wanted to test whether the Rinnegan could detect his transformation and whether his transformation could replicate the Rinnegan. He intended to gather intelligence. If he hoped to recruit Nagato as a disciple, Mu Yue would need to act in the Land of Rain. Target, Land of Rain, let's go! Obito shouted when everything was checked. He'd never been there and hoped for sights unlike the Wind Country deserts or the Snow Country glaciers. On the way, the mission's middle-aged client proved talkative. Obito peppered him with questions. There aren't really any special sights. The rain is the main feature, the client said. Obito's expectations dipped, but his curiosity stayed alive. Unique flora or local quirks still interested him. The client soon grew critical. Hanzo ruined this place. The Land of Rain's fall is half his doing. He blamed Hanzo for Rain's current weakness. Ordinary people didn't fear village ninja as much as rogue ninja. Those had nothing to lose. The Land of Rain's position between the 3 great nations demanded strength to keep order, and at the moment it lacked it. Hanzo's failure had driven many Rain ninja away. Some joined other organizations, others became rogue and made public order worse. Hanzo? That name rings a bell, Obito said, scratching his head. He's powerful. Some call him the demigod of the shinobi world. Anyone who survives a fight with him gains great renown, Shisui explained. Hanzo's reputation remained immense even after Rain's losses in the Second Shinobi World War. It hadn't been Hanzo who was defeated, but the Rain forces around him. He sounds strong, Obito mused, curious who would win between Hanzo and Mu Yue the Sage. He trusted his instinct. Mu Yue would win. Lady Tsunade was once defeated by him during the Second War, even when she was allied with Orochimaru and Jiraiya, Rin warned, not wanting Obito to act rashly. She thought, Obito and Kakashi were impressive for their age, but still too young to throw themselves at such danger. He beat the Toad Hermit? Obito's eyes brightened. He vowed to challenge Hanzo in 10 years. If he won, he would boast to Jiraiya. When they entered the Land of Rain, Mu Yue activated his Byakugan. He had visited many small countries, but this one was the most chaotic he had seen. With a vastly widened field of vision, he noticed things the others didn't. The frequent hovering of rogue ninja who would retreat after a glance, Cloud Ninja disguised as Iwa, Iwa Ninja posing as Cloud, Sand Ninja shadowing them. The Land of Rain was fraught with disguised threats. After moving a distance into the country, Mu Yue left his shadow clone in charge of the escort and separated his main body from the team. He extended the range of his Flying Thunder God technique and scanned for Akatsuki traces. Cautious measures, ensuring that if Kakashi's group ran into trouble, Mu Yue could teleport in instantly to support them. Be careful, there's a fight up ahead. Kakashi, walking at the front, heard the sounds of a skirmish in the village ahead. Obito dashed up to his side to see, while Rin and Shisui stayed close, watching the middle-aged client. Obito flipped on his Sharingan to sharpen his perception. 1, 2, 3, 5, he reported. There are 5 shinobi. Their levels are ordinary, and none of them wear headbands. I can't tell which village they're from. They're either from some ninja group or they're rogue shinobi, Kakashi said. Villages weren't the only source of ninja, but village shinobi usually outmatched others. For an escort mission, it was safest to avoid trouble. Mu Yue-sensei, should we take a detour? Obito bristled at the idea. No need. I can take all of them by myself. To him, the fighters looked like they'd be cut down in the first round of the chuunin exam's final stage. Detouring for them felt unnecessary. Mu Yue glanced over and shook his head. No detour. There are only those 5. Obito's face lit up with triumph. Kakashi scoffed. Mu Yue has sensory ninjutsu. That isn't the same as your recklessness. You can say that, Obito shot back, but I'm still right. They bickered quietly as they advanced, keeping their eyes on the village. When they entered, Kakashi noticed villagers lined along the streets watching the fight with anxious faces. That struck him as odd. Common folk typically shut themselves inside during a ninja battle. A stray kunai could kill an ordinary person in an instant. Were they watching for entertainment? That seemed unlikely. As the group moved in, the villagers recognized Konoha headbands and backed away instinctively. The middle-aged client sighed. Rogue ninjas again, trying to loot the village. What a terrible place. From the attackers' uniforms, the client inferred the other 2 combatants were members of the Akatsuki organization. The Akatsuki weren't the strongest faction in the Land of Rain, but their structure had earned them a reputation. The client had a favorable impression of them, but he wasn't about to order Mu Yue's team to get involved with someone else's business. Their job was to ensure his safety, nothing more. Kakashi studied the scene for a moment. You take the 2 cloaked ones, I'll handle the other 3. With so little time to analyze everything, he figured tackling all 5 was the simplest solution. He checked Mu Yue's expression. When there was no objection, he began to focus his breathing technique. You wanted to detour a minute ago, Obito grumbled. And now you want to attack. Kakashi, you've got a mouth tougher than a kunai. He complained, but followed orders. Obito gathered chakra at his throat, shaping it into a massive flame. Fire release. Great fireball technique. A huge fireball roared into being and hurtled toward the 5 fighters. The attackers broke off and retreated. No one could stand against a burning sphere like that. We're out of luck today. Those Konoha ninjas look tough, a tall rogue ninja muttered, turning to flee. 2 of his companions had already bolted. All the chakra Kakashi had centered in his legs erupted. Amplified by his breathing technique and bolstered by lightning chakra, he became a blur on the ground. As he ran, he swung his white fang short sword. The 2 lead rogues went down as their legs exploded with blood. The remaining taller rogue skidded to a halt when he saw Kakashi's speed and ferocity. Kakashi kept running, throwing shuriken with pinpoint accuracy. The rogue dodged clumsily and still took cuts. Before he could escape, a kunai charged with lightning release pierced his knee. What looked like a shuriken had only been a feint. The lightning-infused kunai was the real strike. We're shinobi protecting the village, not thieves, one of the cloaked fighters called, having dodged Obito's fireball. Obito didn't stop. How could he know if that was true? His priority was to disable potential threats, then ask questions. Still, the cloaked shinobi's words made him hesitate. He restrained his flaw, aims, and relied on taijutsu. Even so, he wasn't weak. He quickly subdued and knocked the 3 rogues out. The village head, watching Kakashi deal with the last attacker, stepped forward. "Konoha ninja, thank you, but please don't hurt them. They came to protect our village." Obito flushed. "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were bandits." He hauled the fallen Akatsuki shinobi upright. "It's nothing. You saved us," the tall, thin Akatsuki member said, shaking his head. If Kakashi and Obito hadn't intervened, the three cloaked ninja likely would have been overwhelmed. Rin stepped forward and placed her hands over their wounds, gathering chakra for the mystical palm technique. A green light flowed from her palms, and the injuries vanished without a trace. The tall, thin ninja stared in disbelief. None of the Akatsuki he knew could do medical ninjutsu. Without Rin's treatment, they'd have been out of commission for a long time. "We're grateful," he said. "We're from the Akatsuki organization. If you ever need help in the Land of Rain, come to us." What he intended as a polite reply hit everyone like a cold gust. Rin froze, Kakashi's eyes narrowed, Obito's expression shifted from embarrassment to shock. They hadn't misread the situation. These were Akatsuki. "You're Akatsuki?" Kakashi asked softly, still circulating chakra and scanning their posture for hidden danger. "Yes. You know our name?" the tall man asked, surprised and a little pleased. Few ninja from the 5 great shinobi villages remembered the names of outside organizations. Obito braced himself, ready to switch into flame mode at a moment's notice. Rin's hand, which had still held chakra for healing, now formed a chakra scalpel. Naruto and Yamato's briefings had painted the Akatsuki as something to fear, the most terrifying organization in their minds. Shisui, slightly behind the others, didn't fully understand the reaction. Obito hadn't mentioned them during his shortened account of the land of Roran. From Shisui's memory, the Akatsuki they'd once clashed with in the land of rivers hadn't left an overwhelmingly negative impression. He'd nearly fought them, and their reputation wasn't uniformly dark. "If more organizations like yours cared about the Land of Rain, things might be better," the client said optimistically. Kakashi, Obito, and Rin exchanged a glance. This was not what they had expected. "We're working to change the Land of Rain," the tall Akatsuki said, clenching his fist. "That's why we gathered." Obito scratched his head. "Terrifying organization? This sounds positive. Is it a namesake?" Kakashi and Rin released the chakra they'd prepared. They could tell these Akatsuki weren't faking it. After a short rest, the group resumed escorting the client to his destination. Shisui voiced his confusion again. Kakashi didn't answer right away. Instead, he subtly checked Mu Yue's expression before stepping forward with Shisui to scout and finally reply. "Obito didn't tell you about the Akatsuki, did he?" Kakashi murmured so only Shisui could hear. "From reports we got from the land of Roran, in the later, more peaceful eras, the Akatsuki become the most powerful organization in the world. Its members are S-rank rogue ninja from various villages. They end up stealing tailed beasts." Shisui understood then why the others had been so tense. Such an organization was aptly described as crazy. Tailed beasts were the ultimate deterrent of the 5 great shinobi villages. Stealing them would make them direct enemies of all 5. If they're like that in the future, Shisui mused, then maybe they're just gathering strength now. He recalled Mu Yue's earlier comment. 2 of those cloaked Akatsuki were fighters Mu Yue couldn't defeat, and one could kill him instantly. If such prodigies grew and recruited more power, the future the reports talked about could come to pass. "I ran into a few Akatsuki during a mission in the Land of Rivers," Shisui added. Kakashi's expression grew serious. He knew Shisui's abilities. Killing him instantly was no easy feat. Shisui's Ringan and body flicker technique made him extraordinarily dangerous. "Then there's no mistake," Kakashi said quietly. "This is the same Akatsuki who'll go after tailed beasts. Maybe they tried before and retreated. Now they're building strength." The Akatsuki members, meanwhile, walked back to their village in high spirits. "I didn't expect even Konoha ninja to know of our organization," the tall, thin member said, chuckling. "If this keeps up, maybe we really can change the Land of Rain." They laughed together and disappeared into their village, unaware that a brown-haired shinobi had quietly picked up their trail. 397. Love Peace. Sosuke Mu Yue kept a shadow clone openly posing as his main body to lead the team, and another shadow clone hidden away to protect his disciples. When the Akatsuki ninja were discovered, the covert clone dispelled itself and returned its memories to Mu Yue. He immediately rushed over, formed a new shadow clone to watch Kakashi and the others, then followed the Akatsuki ninja toward their base. To test how well his transformation technique could conceal him, Mu Yue altered his face to resemble Aizen's, only somewhat, not an exact copy. He'd once used that disguise during a mission, and Uchiha Madara might know about it. An exact match could raise suspicion. A partial resemblance combined with an undetectable transformation technique would arouse none. Mu Yue entered the village, shrouded by transparent world, suppressing his chakra and moving quietly. He found a small group gathered around Yahiko, who was practicing taijutsu. "Leader Yahiko, today we helped a village repel 3 rogue ninja," a tall, thin shinobi reported excitedly. "You two alone drove off 3 rogue ninja? That's excellent," Yahiko laughed, clearly pleased. The tall, thin man, older than Yahiko, smiled back earnestly. The Akatsuki's resources were thin, their base was small and offered no perks. Most who joined the Rain Village were drawn by Yahiko's charisma and his dream of changing the land of rain. "How much of it was your doing? A passing Konoha ninja helped us," the man admitted. Pride without self-awareness could be dangerous. Those who took too much credit might bite off more than they could chew. At the mention of Konoha ninja, Nagato, standing beside Yahiko, glanced cautiously at the newcomer. They were strong. Even though they looked barely 10, they handled 3 rogue ninja in under a minute. And there was a talented medical ninja. After her treatment, there wasn't a single scar left, the tall man added, recalling their battle with Kakashi. "Train hard and you'll get stronger," Yahiko encouraged. The tall shinobi nodded, fired up to improve. "Are you the Akatsuki?" Mu Yue dropped down from a rooftop and walked toward them. Several Akatsuki members took combat stances, watching him warily. "We are the Akatsuki. Are you here to entrust us with a mission?" Yahiko asked, signaling his men to lower their kunai. Yahiko assumed that someone who would reveal himself like that couldn't be a threat. If Mu Yue had intended to attack, he would have struck from the shadows. "Not a mission. I heard the Akatsuki is an organization for peace, so I wanted to see for myself," Mu Yue said, advancing toward Yahiko and Nagato while keeping his focus on Nagato's face. Nagato had seen Mu Yue's main body in the Land of Rivers before. If Nagato's Rinnegan had pierced the disguise, recognition would show on his face. "Our goal is peace in the ninja world," Yahiko answered, mistaking Mu Yue for a hopeful recruit. "First, we'll make the Land of Rain peaceful." Yahiko moved to explain his ideals in detail. Nagato, however, stepped between him and Mu Yue. "Don't go over there. This person is very strong," he warned, having sensed Mu Yue's powerful chakra. Yahiko paused, smiled, and patted Nagato's shoulder. "Nagato, you're still here? I trust you." The two then stopped about 1.5 meters from Mu Yue. "How do you plan to make the Land of Rain peaceful?" Mu Yue asked with a smile. "Protect villagers from rogue shinobi, spread our ideals to attract like-minded ninja. Once we're strong enough, even the 5 great nations won't dare wage war on the Land of Rain," Yahiko replied. Mu Yue studied him. The first 3 members of Akatsuki had been people Yahiko and Nagato had subdued and inspired. Mu Yue's tone went cool. During the Second Shinobi World War, the Rain had thousands of shinobi in Hanzo, a leader called a demigod, and still couldn't escape war. "When do you think your Akatsuki can match that?" Yahiko stumbled. With only Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan, they barely numbered 20. The reign of the Second War was far beyond them. "What advantages do you offer over the Rain Village or other organizations? Why would ninja choose you?" Mu Yue pressed. Reality was harsh. Without resources, even Madara couldn't take a single Uchiha when he left Konoha. People chose stability. "We." Yahiko faltered. He had spoken of ideals, not logistics. Funding, training, maintaining peace. He hadn't thought it through. For the first time, Yahiko felt the distance between dream and reality. "Leader Yahiko is a genius. If he keeps growing, he'll shake the ninja world," one acolyte said in Yahiko's defense. "That only shows you're unique in rhetoric," Mu Yue replied. "Most organizations survive by money. You're right to cherish ideals, but you have no funds, no training infrastructure. 20 or 30 can manage, but what about 100? How will you maintain peace? If the peace you build crumbles in a few years, what then?" The question stunned the Akatsuki members. Yahiko looked embarrassed. He truly hadn't considered many practicalities. Still, he saw Mu Yue as someone who could fill those gaps. "You're right, we have many shortcomings. Will you join us and help fix them? Together we can bring peace to the land of rain and beyond," Yahiko said earnestly. "If you join, your status would be equal to mine," Yahiko added, offering the greatest concession he dared. He wouldn't hand over the title outright, but he hinted he would if needed. Mu Yue shook his head. "That's not the point. If I wanted, I could gather dozens of subordinates easily." "And what would it take for you to join?" Yahiko asked, not giving up. Mu Yue smiled and offered no answer. He turned to leave. "At least tell me your name," Yahiko called after him. Mu Yue paused, didn't turn, and said Sosuke. Then he was gone. Yahiko watched his retreating back with regret. He believed Sosuke must also long for peace. Otherwise, why come here? Their performance had disappointed him, but Yahiko redoubled his resolve. "Everyone, work harder so more excellent comrades will join," Yahiko urged. The Akatsuki nodded, determined. It was a scene they would remember. Mu Yue reviewed the data he had scanned from Nagato. The Rinnegan alone wasn't enough to satisfy his interest, yet he wasn't disappointed. The Rinnegan was a top-tier ability. Black Zetsu had schemed for 1,000 years, and only Madara had truly awakened it. Even if Mu Yue could reproduce it, he couldn't use it now. The ring had limits. Nagato himself needed enormous chakra to wield it, and Obito, even with many Hashirama cells, only dared to transplant one eye. After checking the details, Mu Yue deleted the stored information. Nagato's data overlapped heavily with the third Hokage's records and contained numerous jutsu. The transformation technique had held up. The Rinnegan hadn't seen through it. Given that Nagato should have recognized Mu Yue's main body, his lack of recognition confirmed the disguise's effectiveness. Having achieved his goal, Mu Yue returned to the team, replaced the shadow clone, and resumed the mission. Nagato was a valuable opportunity for chakra and potential discipleship, but his current followers mattered more. He already had a plan. If things went well, he might recruit Nagato as a pupil and earn substantial rewards in the Land of Rain. Mu Yue had been right to be cautious. Luck simply wasn't on Obito and the other side. The Land of Rain was a mess. Just as Mu Yue and his team were about to deliver their client, a group of Sunagakure shinobi spotted them and immediately closed in. Kakashi didn't make a move. Sunagakure hadn't declared war on Konoha, and he even shot Obito a warning look to hold back. "What do you Konoha ninja want?" the woman at the head of the Sand Squad demanded, hostile. "Are you serious? You ran over and surrounded us. Then ask what we want," Obito snapped, clearly annoyed. 12 Sand Ninja were present, but Obito didn't look the least bit intimidated. Mu Yue stood right beside him. "Brat, your parents never teach you to stop interrupting when adults are talking?" Lady Yakura was asking, one of the Sand Shinobi scolded, furious at Obito's disrespect toward the woman he admired. Obito glared back. "Who said I'm talking to you? What are you even saying?" The Sand Ninja reached for a long sword. The tension on the road snapped taut. Kakashi silently drew his white-fanged short sword. Although there wasn't a formal state of war, hostility had already been shown. They couldn't just stand there. Shisui and the others readied themselves. A transparent surge of chakra struck the long sword and shattered it. Mu Yue retracted his hand and smiled. "Didn't your teacher tell you not to point weapons at people for no reason?" The Sand Ninja stared at the broken steel blade in disbelief. That wasn't some wooden prop. It was a real forged long sword. If that strike had landed on his body instead of the sword, the injury would have been catastrophic. The more fear he felt, the more Obito grinned. "Mu Yue-sensei's with us. What do you have?" Yakura, green and yellow-haired and standing calmly despite the broken sword, took a step back from her subordinate and regarded Mu Yue. "Yesterday a 4-person squad from Sunagakure went missing. Nearby villagers report seeing Konoha ninja operating in the area that day." Yakura didn't make trouble for no reason. Sunagakure was already weakened by internal strife and at war with Kumogakure. They couldn't afford to be careless. Mu Yue didn't need to think long to guess who might have done it instead, Iwagakure or Kumogakure. Those two loved sowing chaos. Any sensible person in the shinobi world knew Konoha wouldn't randomly start a fight with Sunagakure while they were being targeted by 3 great ninja villages. "As ninjas, you should know how easy it is to fool villagers," Mu Yue said. You ought to investigate Kumogakure or Iwagakure first. Ordinary people don't see through transformation technique tricks. An average transformation and a few stolen Konoha headbands and vests would fool any villager. Whether true or not, we'll find out after you cooperate with an investigation. Yakura's voice was steady. Mu Yue's suggestion had merit, but he could also be defending his comrades. Normally, Konoha shouldn't provoke Sunagakure in a situation like this, but every ninja had their own reasons. Maybe something else had happened that led to the Sun Squad's demise. Yakura, Chakra, 56,000. Skills, Scorch Release, Proficient, Tune 815,000. Fire Release Chakra, Nature Transformation, Proficient. Wind Release Chakra, Nature Transformation, Proficient. Scorch Release, Extremely Steaming Murder, Proficient. Yakura's Scorch Release, fused from wind and fire natures, made her more dangerous than most. She could wipe out a jonin with a single touch of her flames. Mu Yue calmly shielded his students behind him. What if I say no? Then we'll defeat you and investigate, Yakura said, shifting into a fighting stance and sending her subordinates to encircle them. She underestimated Kakashi, Obito, and the others. Obito tightened his breathing, boosting his physicals and nature transformations, and awakened his 3 Tomoe Sharingan. With raw taijutsu, he dropped 2 sand chuunin in quick succession. Shisui activated his own Sharingan. Phantom body flicker. Dozens of Shisuis appeared, and their fists land, dead for real. 2 more sand chuunin were down before they could even find Shisui's real body. Kakashi concentrated his breath to the extreme and entered the transparent world. The sand jonin, who'd meant to take Kakashi out first, abandoned the plan. Kakashi's pressure was suffocating. His moves saw through everything the jonin did, and the jonin couldn't land a counter. In barely over a minute, 5 sand ninja lay incapacitated. Whenever anyone tried to bypass Mu Yue to get at Kakashi's team, Mu Yue would flash over, knock them out, and toss them aside. Yakura's face went hard. This Konoha squad was stronger than she'd expected. Scorch Release, Extremely Steaming Murder. Yakura unleashed her bloodline. 6 head-sized orbs of Scorch Release condensed around her and shot straight for Mu Yue. Mu Yue didn't take the fire lightly. He gathered a massive amount of chakra and spat out a torrent of water like a falling waterfall. Water Release, Great Waterfall Technique. Yakura watched the torrent approach with cool composure. Scorch Release wasn't ordinary fire. It was a bloodline fused from wind and fire, and water couldn't easily counter it. Under her control, the fireballs ignored the water's mass and charged through, evaporating the torrent as they advanced. The orbs shrank, but did not extinguish like normal flames. Mu Yue leaped onto the water's surface and released a blade of cold air into it. The torrent froze instantly. Freezing Ray. Yakura's Scorch Release dissipated under the assault of ice. An ice release? Yakura's eyes narrowed. A Konoha ninja with such powerful ice release. Interesting. Mu Yue tossed a handful of Flying Thunder God kunai, aiming for all the sand ninja and Yakura. She sidestepped the ordinary kunai with a small movement. Scorch Release, Blazing Wave. Yakura decided on a wide area counter. A sea of scorching flames surged toward Mu Yue. She felt confident. Flames melted ice more naturally than ice froze flames, and she believed her Scorch Release would have the edge. Mu Yue didn't dodge or cast another technique. He simply condensed chakra on the spot. Yakura frowned. With his previous displays, he wouldn't stand frozen like that, unless he had a method she couldn't see. Before she could react, everything blurred. Yakura kicked out instinctively, but her reaction and attack weren't faster than Mu Yue's. There was a muffled thud as she hit the ground hard, carving a crater with the force of the impact. Lady Yakura! The sand ninja behind her stared at Mu Yue in disbelief. Yakura was one of Sunagakure's heroes. During the time the 3rd Kazekage was missing, she'd even been considered as a candidate for 4th Kazekage. It's Yellow Flash, one of them gasped. The Yellow Flash had been making a name for himself on the battlefields. Why was he here in the land of rain? Mu Yue, ever kind, saw how worried the sand ninja were and had them lie down beside Yakura. In a blink, he activated Flying Thunder God again, appearing beside them and quickly dealing with the rest. These sand ninja weren't that strong. Besides that green and yellow-haired woman, did any of the others last 10 seconds? Obito said, more impressed than ashamed. Kakashi corrected him. It's not that the sand ninja were weak. Mu Yue-sensei is just that strong. He turned to Obito. Do you know who that woman is? Obito shrugged. A famous ninja? Doesn't strike me as anything special. Mu Yue had defeated Yakura with what looked like only a few simple techniques, but there was more to it. Kakashi explained, her name is Yakura. She's a hero of Tsunagakure and a scorch release user. Anyone burned by her scorch release turns into a dried corpse. She's a well-known powerhouse. Kakashi understood why Mu Yue had the upper hand. Information. Yakura knew little about Mu Yue. He was low-key. She didn't know he'd mastered Flying Thunder God and could teleport at point-blank range, a fatal blind spot. If Kakashi and the others had been the ones to face her, they might have suffered. Mu Yue's secrecy had been decisive. Even 4 of them together might not have beaten Yakura. The Scorch Release's lethality was that severe. Even Rin's medical ninjutsu might not save someone burned by it in time. Is this really common knowledge? Obito asked, incredulous. Information is a basic tool for a ninja, Kakashi said dryly. Observe more, listen more, pay attention to the big events. He then stepped forward. Shisui had already moved toward Yakura. Mu Yue watched Yakura get to her feet, careful. So this counts as a proper investigation? If Konoha intended to deal with Tsunagakure, do you think you'd all still be standing? He asked. Killing Yakura would have been dangerous. It could easily spark a diplomatic incident and accelerate the alliance of the other great villages against Konoha. Mu Yue had no desire to push Konoha into a worse position. Yakura, chest-heaving but composed, said, Yellow Flash truly lives up to his reputation. This was my mistake. I will reinvestigate when I return. Mu Yue inclined his head. You should pay more attention to Iwagakure and Kumagakure. My name is Hayate Mugetsu. Don't mistake me next time. With that, Mu Yue escorted their startled client to their destination. Yakura and her squad stood there, bewildered, watching the Konoha team and their enigmatic ally leave. After the run-in with Yakura, Mu Yue and his team had no more surprises. They delivered their client safely, and the middle-aged man couldn't stop praising Mu Yue's professionalism. He didn't know much about Shinobi, but Mu Yue looked formidable and utterly dependable. He insisted on taking the group to a famous local restaurant as thanks, but Mu Yue asked Obito what he thought, and they politely declined. Normally, Obito wouldn't refuse a big meal, but rumors about the Akatsuki in the Land of Rain made him uneasy. The 4 of them decided to use the return trip to look into the Akatsuki, information they'd picked up from Uzumaki Naruto and Yamato, and they agreed to keep that from Mu Yue. We can ask Mu Yue-sensei to give us a little freedom, but don't stray too far, Kakashi said. That way he can use Flying Thunder God to back us up if anything goes wrong. Shisui suggested Obito come up with a cover. Have him say he wants to take pictures of the scenery in the Land of Rain. Obito immediately seized on the idea. I do want to take pictures, he said, clutching his camera. Rin, you should stay with Mu Yue-sensei. Rin Nohara, the weakest of them and mainly a healer, agreed with a gentle smile. She was self-aware and didn't want to be a burden. Obito approached Mu Yue awkwardly, camera in hand. Mu Yue-sensei, the mission is complete. Can I take some commemorative photos? I won't wander far. Kakashi and the others will be with me. Mu Yue agreed readily. He wanted to gather more information about the Land of Rain himself. Delaying the return suited him. Obito cheered. Mu Yue ruffled Obito's hair, warning him to stay vigilant. Even though Mu Yue would dispatch a shadow clone to watch over his students, he wished for them to be cautious. Obito puffed up and promised he'd be fine. They split up. Mu Yue and Rin together, Kakashi, Obito, and Shisui as the investigation trio. The 3 questioned villagers and townsfolk about the Akatsuki, but the answers only confused them more. Locals praised the organization. They'd help drive off rogue ninja and settle bandit problems. The Akatsuki do good work. They're more affordable than hiring a full village, one villager said. Maybe, Obito wondered aloud, it was a coincidence of names. Maybe the Akatsuki here isn't the Akatsuki we've heard about, he suggested. Kakashi was less sure. If the Akatsuki were genuinely building influence, spending time doing community deeds didn't make sense. A shinobi organization would gain power by taking jobs and resources, not by charity. Shisui offered another possibility. People change. An organization that appeared benevolent now could become dangerous later, just as a seemingly innocent person could become terrifying down the line. He compared it to Uchiha Itachi. What someone becomes in the future doesn't necessarily reflect who they are now. Kakashi considered that plausible, but lamented the lack of concrete evidence. Then, by sheer luck, they ran into members of the Akatsuki while they were on patrol. Obito recognized the orange-haired man, using water release, as Yahiko, the leader. Shisui had met Yahiko before, and whispered their name to the others. But it was the red-haired figure next to him who made Kakashi go utterly still. Kakashi had slipped into the transparent world and seen the enormous chakra flowing through the red-haired man's body. It was the most intense chakra Kakashi had ever sensed, stronger than Mu Yue's. Worse, just by looking, Kakashi felt an overwhelming threat emanating from the man's eyes. The stranger turned and stared directly toward Kakashi's group. He frowned when he saw their Konoha vests and headbands. "Yahiko, there are some Konoha ninja over there," the red-haired man reported. Yahiko called back without hostility. He'd been saved by Konoha nin at one point and didn't object to being watched. Kakashi made a quick decision. He pulled a Flying Thunder God kunai from his pouch, then created a shadow clone and darted toward Mu Yue's location. A precaution in case things escalated. "Let's go look, but keep our distance, especially from that red-haired guy," he warned. The three stepped out of the shadows to face Yahiko and his group. A tall, thin Akatsuki member introduced Yahiko, then explained to him that the visitors were the Konoha Shinobi who had once helped them. Yahiko smiled and greeted them like old acquaintances. He recognized Shisui from a previous encounter in the Land of Rivers and joked about the smallness of the ninja world. Kakashi probed carefully. "We heard your organization aims for peace and stability," he said. "That's right," Yahiko answered, earnest and proud. "Akatsuki was founded to bring peace to the Land of Rain and to the entire Shinobi world." He spoke with conviction. The other Akatsuki members listened with longing on their faces. Yahiko had been doing public work partly to raise the organization's profile and partly in the hope of finding a man named Sosuke again, someone who had vanished like a shadow. Kakashi felt heavy. Seeing Yahiko's sincere belief, it was hard to reconcile that with the Akatsuki tales that painted them as tailed beast stealers. What would turn an organization like this into a terrorist group, he wondered to himself. Obito, moved by Yahiko's words, chimed in. "War shouldn't exist," he said. He wanted peace too, for Konoha, for the Land of Fire, so that no more shinobi would die senselessly. Yahiko brightened at Obito's reply. If not for Obito's Konoha identity, Yahiko might have offered him membership on the spot. Obito, puffing up, declared, "I want to end the wars and become Hokage." "If you work hard, you'll succeed," Yahiko laughed. "Then we'll cooperate to bring peace sooner." Obito found himself liking Yahiko instantly. They had the same dream, and that was enough for friendship. But time pressed. Kakashi and the others had more ground to cover. They said goodbye, and Yahiko returned the farewell with a hopeful wish that both of them would one day be famous across the ninja world. "Wait until the name Uchiha Obito is known everywhere," Obito called as they parted. Once the Akatsuki group left, Kakashi concluded that the current Akatsuki and the one they'd worried about must be different. For now, they seemed like nobly minded shinobi, and further snooping felt unnecessary. Still, he worried. The Akatsuki members were older than them, and the red-haired man's power, and those eyes remained a serious unknown. Back with Mu Yue's team, Kakashi couldn't stop thinking about the eyes that had filled him with such danger. He sketched the eye on paper, and trying to sound casual, asked Mu Yue about a mural he'd seen in the Land of Rain. "I saw this symbol in a mural. Is it a local custom?" Mu Yue took the paper, studied the drawing, and replied, "It goes by many names. The Sage's Eye, the eye that controls life and death, the Rinnegan. It's the Six Paths Sage's Eye." Kakashi froze. He had suspected it might be a powerful dojutsu, but he hadn't imagined such a monumental origin. The Six Paths Sage, a figure many revered like a god, was no myth but a historical person, considered the forefather of shinobi. Obito leaned forward eagerly to get a look, but Kakashi, not wanting to risk exposing what they'd seen, tugged Obito aside for some sudden combat practice. Even Shisui, who tried to remain outwardly calm, was shaken by the revelation. 400. Disciples' Strengthening Plan. After returning to Konoha, Mu Yue gave his students a day off as usual and went straight to the Hokage's office to report on the mission. Technically, the B-rank escort didn't require a personal debrief to Hiruzen Sarutobi, but the unexpected circumstances they'd run into warranted it. Mu Yue knocked on the wooden door. "Come in," Hiruzen called. Mu Yue opened the door. "Third Hokage-sama, it's possible that shinobi from other villages, disguised as Konoha ninja, attacked the Sand Team in the Land of Rain." Hiruzen's expression turned serious. 3 of the 5 great shinobi villages had already taken hostile stances against Konoha. He did not want the Sand to join them. "Tell me everything." Mu Yue explained the mission, how they'd been escorting a caravan in the Land of Rain when a Sand squad led by Yakura had surrounded them, attacking under the pretense of an investigation. He recounted the confrontation and its aftermath. Yakura. Hiruzen's face showed recognition. Yakura was no unknown, a feared bloodline user. After a pause, he asked, "You didn't kill those Sand ninja, did you?" Hiruzen wasn't worried about Mu Yue's safety. Mu Yue's talent was obvious. He knew Mu Yue had mastered 5 chakra natures, possessed the ice-release Kekkei Genkai, had learned the Flying Thunder God technique, knew many powerful jutsu, and was clever. In terms of raw ability, Hiruzen didn't think Yakura could beat Mu Yue. What worried him was the political fallout. If any Sand ninja had been killed, Tsunagakure would blame Konoha, regardless of who actually struck the fatal blow. "We only fought until we could talk. There were no casualties," Mu Yue answered. Yakura admitted their mistake and agreed to a new investigation. Hiruzen relaxed and smiled. "You handled it well. I'll have Anbu look into it, just to be sure." The mission had left a strong impression on Hiruzen. Mu Yue's talents weren't limited to jutsu or teaching. He was capable, composed, and politically aware. Hiruzen mentally berated Root and Danzo. A talent like Mu Yue shouldn't have been suppressed for so long. If Mu Yue had appeared earlier, Hiruzen mused, he might have taken him as a formal disciple. Hiruzen's candidates for the next Hokage were Jiraiya and Tsunade, neither of whom actually wanted the post, and he distrusted Orochimaru's ambition. There were no easy answers. After the report, Mu Yue returned home. Hiruzen offered only some training resources. Mu Yue already had access to the ninjutsu library, and his official Konoha position was limited. He was the vice principal of the Ninja Academy. Hiruzen couldn't just replace someone to make Mu Yue principal. Back home, after sorting what they'd learned in the Land of Rain, Mu Yue began planning. The political chaos there fit perfectly with his scheme for recruiting disciples. His plan was to first leave a strong impression on Yahiko and Nagato of the Akatsuki, build a reputation in the Land of Rain as a master, and then let them try to recruit him again. He would refuse at first, continuing to grow his renown. When the time was right, he'd stage some tests that would make it natural for Yahiko and company to accept him as their teacher. The quickest way to gain both reputation and resources was teaching. Lessons paid rewards and produced numerous students. Mu Yue had proven his appeal, show a little strength, and the local shinobi would flock to his classes. After being dismissed at the Hokage's office, Kakashi didn't go train immediately. He went to the Konoha library to look for records on the Rinnegan. He wasn't questioning Mu Yue. He was curious and wanted to learn everything he could. The search turned up only myths and legends about the Rinnegan. There were no reliable records. He also looked into the tailed beasts again, but found nothing useful about why they sometimes went berserk. From the library, Kakashi went to find Metkai. He'd tried to see Guy after returning from Rulan before, but Guy had been out on a mission then. "My rival. Are you here to challenge me? I've been waiting for this day." Metkai greeted, brimming with excitement. He'd been training relentlessly for months and was eager to fight Kakashi again. "I'm not here to fight," Kakashi said, shaking his head. He wanted to brief Guy on the future intelligence they'd encountered so Guy could help change outcomes. Guy's face fell. He had already pictured the duel. Seeing Guy's disappointment, Kakashi relented a little and suggested a compromise. They played rock, paper, scissors. Kakashi won with scissors. Guy accepted the small defeat with theatrical flair, but still followed Kakashi to a secluded grove. Kakashi explained the Rulan mission, how they'd met ninja from the future, and then laid out the intelligence about Akatsuki activities in the Land of Rain. Guy listened with no hesitation. he trusted Kakashi and immediately committed to helping. "This is exactly why I train," Guy said with a wide grin. He knew Mu Yue, Obito, and Rin, and he would do everything to protect them. "Don't tell anyone else," Kakashi advised. Guy nodded solemnly. Then the two went to the south border forest. Kakashi wanted to discuss something with Mu Yue's other disciples. This was why he'd chosen not to fight Guy earlier. To speed everyone's improvement, Kakashi proposed, we'll hold a practical combat test every 3 months. The last 2 in each test get a penalty. To Kakashi, their current level, 10-year-olds who were already prodigies, wasn't enough to change history. They needed far greater power, at least comparable to Ana Uzumaki's or Yamato's level. Rin, as a medical ninja, should conserve chakra for healing, Kakashi decided. "Rin, you're excused," he told her. Rin nodded, a little disappointed but understanding. "Let's start the first practical combat now," Guy said eagerly. Shisui agreed without hesitation. He wanted to push himself and disliked being weak. Obito asked about the penalties. Kakashi explained the penalties will be whatever each person hates most. It's personal. What's torture for one may be a joke for another. Obito panicked a little. "I really hate." "For example, Obito, you hate tests and doing worksheets, so your penalty will be doing study papers," Kakashi cut in. Obito tried bargaining. "I hate green peppers. Can I eat 10 green peppers instead?" Kakashi gave him a flat look. "If you hated green peppers that much, you wouldn't have suggested the swap." Rin, covering her mouth to hide a smile, reminded everyone how miserable Obito looked the last time he'd been punished with tests. Doing paperwork would be torture for him, she said. Obito blushed and tried to defend himself. "I scored 80 points in the chuunin exam science section," Kakashi teased. "So you're not afraid of test papers? Then you shouldn't have suggested a substitution." Obito had no answer and silently accepted the fate of worksheets. Kakashi then volunteered his own punishment to show fairness. "If I'm one of the last 2, I won't contradict Obito for a whole week, no matter what he says." He wasn't joking. Kakashi knew how much that would drive him crazy. Shisui and Guy also named suitably unpleasant penalties for themselves. They drew lots to set the first-round matches. Rin stayed out of combat and ran the draw. Shisui is number 1, Obito number 2, Kakashi number 3, and Metkai number 4, Rin announced. That set the bracket, Shisui versus Obito and Kakashi versus Metkai. The 2 losers would be penalized, the 2 winners would fight each other, and the ultimate victor would be known as Mu Yue's strongest disciple for the next 3 months. "My rival, this is the bond between us." Guy cried theatrically, giving Kakashi an excited thumbs up, the earlier blow to his pride entirely gone. Kakashi's face hardened. No matter how much Guy wanted to show, Kakashi had to win. Otherwise, he dreaded a week of Obito's smugness. Shisui and Obito exchanged a sharp glance, both lit with competitive fire. Shisui, who had been Mu Yue's earliest student, was used to being at the top and hated the thought of losing. "Obi, too, your flame-breathing chakra mode is strong, but did you know I can already use armament haki effectively?" Shisui said with quiet confidence. He'd been ahead of the others with his haki training, and that calm advantage showed. They squared off, each primed to push themselves harder than before.